Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto inherits a different sensei instead of Kakashi. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. It was a cold and dark night when the Nine Tails attacked the village of Konoha. It was said that the demon could not be killed, which was actually true. Nothing could stop the demon, and as the ninjas of Konoha desperately attempts to defend their home from the monster, the leader of the village, the Hokage, was not seen among the shinobi fighting the monster. Minato Namikaze, the current Hokage, was at Konoha Hospital, pacing around in circles like mad as he awaited the news of his wife, Kushina Uzumaki, delivering their baby. Watching their Hokage in worry were four men. They were the previous Hokage, Sarutobi, his sensei the Frog Sannin, Jiraiya, his student, Hada Kakashi, and an elite jounin almost on par with Kakashi, Haruno Maki. Haruno Maki was the same age as Kakashi, and the two were considered the best elite jounins in Konoha. Of course, when it comes to skill, Kakashi was said to be better, but that neither had sparred with the other seriously to actually test the theory. Maki had developed his own personal skills, and he is known throughout the land as the replicator for his use of confusion with his shadow clones. There were two unique ways Maki fought with his special clone kunai. The clone kunai were Maki's own set of custom kunais, and with them, he could create shadow clones through two methods. One was by drawing out chakra from a seal Maki had placed in the clone kunai. The other method was if the clone kunai was able to draw blood on the victim. If blood touches the clone kunai, immediately a shadow clone would be created. Minato of course knew of the Kyuubi attacking his village, and he had assured the four men that he would fight the Kyuubi once he knows of his wife's condition. The Hokage was the only person that could probably defeat the demon as everyone else had tried. Maki knew that his brother was probably among the ninjas fighting the Nine Tails. He prayed that he would make it before he arrived. Finally, a doctor emerged from the delivery room, catching the five men's attention. Minato ran towards the doctor and grabbed the doctor by his shoulders. "How is she? How is my son?" "Your son is fine, Hokage-sama," the doctor assured him. "He is a healthy little boy. However, your wife." The doctor stopped there, which brought fear to everyone. Minato was trembling as he felt the worst possible news would be heard. "What's wrong? What's wrong with my wife?" "Your wife," the doctor hesitated once more. "Your wife has died during childbirth. We're not so sure of the cause, but we have lost her. I'm sorry." At that moment, everyone could see that Minato's spirit had been broken. His heart was broken to pieces and his legs actually went weak. He had to use the wall for support to keep him from falling. It was probably the first time that many had seen the Hokage so defeated. I want to see my son." Minato choked. "But Minato, what about Sarutobi?" started, but Minato cut him off. "I need to spend 5 minutes at least with my son. The rest of you, try and hold him and I will come." All four men nodded their heads. Everyone but Jiraiya disappeared in order to try and stop the Kyuubi. Or at least to buy some time until the Hokage arrived to stop the rampaging beast himself. The four men were after all Konoha's finest shinobi after Minato. The demon continued on its wild rampage, killing shinobis that attacked it. All attacks were futile as the Kyuubi had the power of regeneration. It healed so fast that all the attacks were not even affecting the Kyuubi. The copy ninja and replicator were jumping from rooftops to rooftops, hurrying to the north gate where the Kyuubi could be seen. It seems that the Kyuubi is getting closer and closer. Kakashi looked at the jounin next to him. "Let's just hope that we can delay the monster before sensei arrives." Maki nodded. "If Hokage-sama can't stop the demon, no one can." They reached the gates and found that most of their comrades were being treated of their wounds, while some were retreating back. Kakashi cursed under his breath and raised his forehead protector, revealing his foreign eye, the Sharingan. Maki took out his custom kunai. The kunai was thinner and lighter than the normal kunai. This is to allow him to throw the kunai at a faster speed that the enemy could not see the kunai coming at him. This is so that his custom jutsu can work, which needs to draw enemy blood to create a shadow clone. He has about 50 of them at home and 10 of them in his back pouch right now. The two of them ran forwards the nine-tailed demon. The demon felt the presence of the two shinobi as it sensed that they were both stronger than the previous shinobi and that they are equal in skills, it seems. The Kyuubi started using one of its tails to strike at the two incoming shinobi, but they easily dodged it by jumping away. While still in the air, Maki formed a set of seals. Pain. Ryuka no Jutsu. The great fire emerged from Maki's mouth in the shape of that like a dragon. The fire blasted on its face, but the Kyuubi felt no pain. It ignored the blast, and it only felt like a mosquito bite. Kakashi also formed seals and once completed, used his right hand like as if he was waving. Rain. Lightning blast technique. A wave of lightning emerged from the palm of Kakashi's hand and it struck the Kyuubi on its left muzzle. This hurt the Kyuubi by a little, but it was not enough. The two jounins continued using ninjutsu to assault the Kyuubi from a distance, but their attacks were futile. The two Jounins continued to distract the demon until they realized that they can't do anymore as they were running out of chakra. As they retreated back, they saw a large puff of smoke was created in front of the demon. It was the Toad King, Gamabunta, and on top of it was the fourth Hokage. Maki jumped to a tree and watched on as the fourth Hokage fought against the legendary nine-tailed beast. They were both equal, but however, as the fight continued on, they could see who was winning. With the Kyuubi's enormous amount of chakra, the beast cannot be stopped. The fourth Hokage was losing. However, Maki observed something strange with the fourth Hokage. He was now holding a baby in his arms. When seen carefully, it was his son as the child had blonde hair like him. Why would the fourth Hokage be endangering his son? He started whispering something to his son and he formed the seals. Kakashi gasped when he saw the seals. "What's wrong, Kakashi?" Maki asked. Kakashi did not respond. He knew that seal though. It was a forbidden technique and no one has ever used it. Could it be that Minato knew that there was nothing else that could beat the beast? He was taken out of his thoughts as Maki's hands were on his shoulder and shaking him. "Kakashi, what's wrong?" "That seal," Kakashi said weakly, "that seal that he is doing. It is a forbidden jutsu. No one has ever used it as whoever uses it will." Kakashi did not finish it. He did not want to say it, but Maki somehow knew the answer. Whoever uses that technique will die. At that moment, Minato finished his seal and he said to something behind him, but Maki could see no one. The Kyuubi lunged forward and was about to strike when it suddenly stopped. It was like being sucked towards Minato. Then, to everyone's surprise, the Kyuubi was being sucked into the child. Minato was looking as the Kyuubi was being sealed into his newborn child. It was the only option. Once the Kyuubi was fully sealed into the Kyuubi, the Shinigami started to take Minato's soul. Gamabunta placed the fourth to the ground and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Maki and Kakashi leapt towards the dying fourth Hokage. When they reached them, Kakashi placed Minato in his hands, holding him up. "Kakashi," Minato said weakly, struggling to not close his eyes. "But sensei." Kakashi was on the verge of crying, one that does not happen often. "The Kyuubi is now sealed in my son," he said, pointing towards the newborn. Maki stared at the newborn baby and he had a black seal on his stomach. "So it is true." "Kakashi." Minato said, now gasping for breath, "Naruto, my son, tell the villagers to treat him as a hero and not a." Minato stopped there as he finally lost his fight for life. He closed his eyes and both Jounins present knew that his eyes will never open again. Kakashi wept on his sensei's chest and Maki just looked at the boy. He held the boy in his arms as the boy started to cry. Several ninjas started to surround them and watched in grief at their fallen Hokage. They stared at the two top Jounin. One of them was still crying, while the other started walking back to the village with the boy cradled in his arms. He can't take care of the child as he knew that his sister-in-law will need to take care of her daughter now that his brother is dead. Still, he will not abandon the boy. He is the fourth legacy and as the fourth's final request, he is to be viewed as the hero. "Sarutobi-sama, what do you say?" Maki said in a concerned voice. Sarutobi was now seated behind the Hokage's desk, taking a puff of smoke from his pipe. Sarutobi was having a headache. He was now once again the Hokage and he was old. He sighed heavily. "We will respect the fourth's request that he be viewed as a hero. With all due respect, Hokage-sama," Maki interrupted, "we shouldn't take this only as a request. He is the fourth son. He deserves the respect that his father was also the hero." Sarutobi nodded, "Let us just hope that the villagers will listen to this request, though it also might fall on deaf ears." There was an awkward silence in the room now. Naruto was now asleep in Maki's arms after he comforted the child. Kakashi was not present as he carried his sensei's body to be buried personally by him. He was the remaining student from his team, so he was the best to do so. "How is your sister-in-law?" Sarutobi asked. Maki shook his head sadly, "Not too well. She's still blaming the Kyuubi for his death and if she finds out about Naruto, I doubt she will listen to not blame the child. After all, she lost her husband." "And do you blame Naruto?" Sarutobi asked sternly. "No. Naruto here will be like his father. He will bring honor to Konoha. In the future, that is." Sarutobi smiled. "So it was decided then that Naruto for now will be placed in an orphanage and Kakashi and Maki will look after him to make sure that he is not harmed." Maki bowed and left Naruto with Sarutobi to do the job. He closed the door behind him and started to make his way home. He hoped that the villagers will indeed listen to the fourth Hokage's last request. He started to think on Kakashi. He was the student of the fourth and the two of them were near equals, but Kakashi just might be slightly better with his Sharingan. He sighed. It's not that they are rivals. They are just nothing but close friends. Maki entered his house and found his sister-in-law crying on the loss of her husband. He too knew the loss. His brother was a good man and a wonderful shinobi. He sighed. His brother was a man that he respected a lot and loved him too. He knew that he made a good choice in finding her as a wife. She was beautiful with her pink hair and emerald eyes, but he knew that he did not want her to suffer like this. Sadly, Maki knew that he needed her to let it all out. He will try and comfort her tomorrow. He walked into a room where the girl was found sleeping. He smiled as he watched his niece sleep peacefully. "Don't worry, child," he whispered to her ear, "even though she was asleep, I'll take good care of you just like my brother took care of you. So sleep well, Sakura." Damn it, where is the last one? Maki asked himself. He was hiding in a tree branch, overlooking a bandit camp. Or what was left of a bandit camp. There were several dead bodies lying on the ground and some were burnt to death. Maki felt no remorse for them as they are a threat to the travelers from and to Konoha. He thought that this B-rank mission would offer more of a challenge, but he was wrong. The last bandit was a missing nin from Konoha. He didn't really know that man, but he left for some unknown reason. He looked around until he heard something. He quickly jumped off the branch as 3 shurikens were tossed and it nearly got him. He landed on the ground only to find an exploding tag. He cursed under his breath and it exploded, blowing Maki to pieces. "And you call yourself a jounin?" A voice mocked, stepping out of his hiding place. He walked to where Maki should have died only to find not a single piece of his body there. "Looking for me?" A voice said and the jounin bandit was kicked to the ground face first. He grunted in pain and looked at his attacker, only to find that it was Maki himself. "How?" Maki smirked, "You didn't think I am known as the replicator for no reason, did you? When you tossed those shurikens and I jumped away, I created a shadow clone to throw me to another branch, well my shadow clone took your trap. Damn you." The missing nin yelled and charged at Maki. Maki took out his custom kunai and the two engage in a kunai fight, metal against metal. The sound of the metal clashing against one another can be heard throughout the forest. They met once more only to block one another and Maki quickly formed his seals. Heitan. Housenkan no Jutsu. Fireballs emerged from Maki's mouth, all aimed at the bandit. The bandit was able to avoid most of it, but the last fireball blasted the man's shoulder, severely burning it. He clenched his wound and quickly formed his own seals. Oten. Earth-crushing technique. The earth below Maki slowly formed a pit and the pit suddenly raised up to Maki's body, attempting to crush him into a pancake. Maki, thinking quickly, used the pit to kick himself out and he made it by a second. The sound of walls crashing one another were heard and Maki was safe from being crushed. Maki formed his seals again. Heitan. Firewall technique. Maki blew out fire and the fire landed right in front of the bandit and suddenly burst into a large wall of fire, blocking the bandit's view. He tried to see past, but he could not. Maki, on the other side smirked and threw his custom kunai at the bandit and it plunged on the bandit's chest, blood spurting out. That was his end as the moment blood was drawn, a shadow clone of Maki was created. The bandit looked at the shadow clone as it placed a kunai on his neck. He could feel his life coming to an end and his last words, so that is why he is given that name. The shadow clone sliced the man's neck and he fell over, dead. Once he completed his job, the shadow clone disappeared in a puff of smoke. Maki nodded to himself. Mission accomplished. He jumped on a tree branch, looked back at the camp once more and made his way to Konoha, which was about 10 miles away. He sighed heavily. It has been 5 years since the Kyuubi incident and Naruto is now 5 years old. He has grown to be quite the hyperactive kid, though he is still abused by the villagers from time to time. Kakashi and Maki have missions that takes days to complete and that is when the villagers normally insult and sometimes even attack Naruto, though it is not life-threatening. Still, he is just a kid that should have these kind of troubles. It was just like the third said. The request of the fourth fell on deaf ears. None listened to the speech Sarutobi gave after the attack and they all took out their anger for the death of their loved ones on Naruto. Even his own sister-in-law. He actually had a big argument with her a few weeks ago regarding Naruto and called Maki himself a demon for protecting Naruto. Heck, even some ninjas were said to attack Naruto. They threw shurikens at him and other ninja tools, but luckily none of them were aimed at the important target such as the heart. They aimed his hands and legs, but it is still pure torture. Naruto somehow had the ability to heal himself. The thought of that angered him and he placed more chakra to his feet, speeding up his journey. He saw a group of shinobis walking down the path. It looks like they have a mission. This means that he was near Konoha and after 3 minutes of jumping from tree branch to tree branch, he saw the massive gates of Konoha. There has been so many problems with Konoha over the years. The defection of the Snake Sannin just because he was not elected Hokage, the death of the fourth. Konoha has lost so many great ninjas. He brushed those troublesome thoughts out of his head and started to walk towards the Hokage tower. After all, he has to give him the report of his mission and that he has finished off one of the missing nins of Konoha. It was lucky that the missing nin was not a very powerful nin. He waved at several passerbys. He knew some of them as friends when they were kids. They failed their real genin test and became civilians of Konoha. They still can fight but not as efficient as the genin, but at least they can defend themselves better than normal civilians. "Hi, Maki." A voice called him. He turned to the source of the voice and it was another of his good friend, Haruka. "Yo, Haruka. You came back from a mission?" he asked, patting his back. "Yeah. I was just about to give my report to Hokage-sama. And what about you? Have you finished teaching those annoying brats at the academy?" Haruka laughed. "Yeah. They can be quite a handful, but I guess I got used to it." Maki shook his head. "I don't know how you can handle them, Haruka. If I was to take your place for a day, I might end up at a mental hospital." The two continued their small chat until Haruka had to excuse himself as he had a meeting at the academy. Maki understood. He, too, had to get to the Hokage, and he realized he was getting late. He jumped up on a rooftop and started to make his way to the Hokage tower. He walked up the stairs. He cursed and wondered why can't they just build an elevator. These stairs are so many and it was starting to tire him out. Luckily that guy was not here. He would for sure use this opportunity to do his so-called youth training or something like that. He chuckled softly as he was lucky not to have him as a rival, but Kakashi instead. He walked the familiar corridors and when he reached the Hokage's door, he knocked on it 3 times. "Enter." A voice commanded and he obliged. Turning the doorknob, he pushed open the door and there, the Hokage was sighted. He was really getting too old for the job. It's not that he cannot fight, he is still powerful, but he used to be far stronger than he is now. "Ah, Maki. So, you have already completed your mission, I assume?" "Hi, Hokage-sama. The bandits are all taken care of. There were about 9 of them and most of them are around low to high Chunin level. It seems that one of our missing nin, a Jounin, was their leader. I believe his name was something like Amati." Sarutobi nodded. "I know that name. He left Konoha a few months back, he attempted to steal one of our forbidden scrolls but was found out before he could take it. Good job, Maki. I guess you will be receiving higher pay." Maki grinned from ear to ear. "Thank you, Hokage-sama." "Is that all, Hokage-sama?" Sarutobi nodded and Maki formed a simple seal and disappeared in a puff of smoke. He appeared on one of the rooftops. His stomach was grumbling for food and he couldn't argue with it. He jumped down from the rooftop and walked around the streets to find a suitable restaurant to fill his stomach. With the new pay, he could eat in a fancy restaurant. He licked his lips as he started to think of all the food he wanted to eat today. He was taken out of his thoughts when someone pushed him, roughly. He looked at the one that pushed him and it was a villager, running away. He saw several other villagers heading his way, all running. He had to jump away to let them pass. He ignored them until he heard one of them say, "Kill that demon boy." Maki's eyes became big. He knew he had to act fast. They were all yelling something like find and kill him. He jumped up on a rooftop and followed the mob and since they were so preoccupied with trying to find Naruto, he didn't have to worry in concealing his presence. The chase took 5 minutes when he saw even more villagers chasing a small blonde boy who was screaming for help only to be ignored. The mob were even wielding weapons. Some with rakes, some with large kitchen knives while others were throwing stones at the boy. He quickly ran ahead of the mob and he could see the boy was crying for help. Maki took out his kunai to prepare himself. The boy tripped and fell to the ground, scraping his knee. He turned to look at the villagers chasing him. "Please, mister. I didn't do anything wrong. Please don't hurt me." He begged. The villagers ignored his pleas and all were cursing at him. Finally, one took the first step and threw a knife at the boy. Maki was surprised that the villager had a good aim and Maki threw his kunai. He did not aim to block the knife but he aimed it at the ground in front of Naruto. He had to use his other custom ability. If you read my other story, you should know his other ability in creating shadow clone with his kunai without drawing blood. The kunai landed on the ground and Maki formed a simple seal. "Hi." The shadow clone was created at the same spot where his kunai was. He made it. The knife plunged through the shadow clone, dispelling it, but he saved Naruto. The villagers were shocked and that was when Maki landed right in front of Naruto, protecting him. He looked at all of the angry mob with a look of pure disgust. "If you dare touch this boy, I will kill you," he said in a harsh tone. The leader of the mob scoffed. "You can't stop all of us. You are one while we are many. If you do not move out of the way, you will die with the demon." At that moment, several puff of smoke was created and several shadow clones of Maki were created, all of them grabbing the nearest villager and placed their kunai at their necks. "I will say it once more," the real Maki said, "leave or I will kill you. It seems you do not know me to actually underestimate me." One of the villager, a woman, realized who he was, Maki the replicator. The nickname caused several of the villagers to cower in fear. Most of them started to apologize while others looked at Maki in silence. Slowly, the shadow clones of Maki released them and they instantly ran from the spot. Maki looked at them and narrowed his eyes to make sure they're all gone. Then, he dispelled each and every one of the clones. He turned to look at the blonde boy was hugging his knees, crying softly. He bent down and tapped the boy on his shoulder. "Naruto, it's okay. It's over. Those bad men won't harm you anymore." Naruto looked up at Maki with tears in his eyes. You won't hurt me, will you, mister? Maki shook his head. No. I want to protect you, Naruto. How do you know my name? Maki shrugged. I just know. At that moment, Naruto's stomach growled in hunger and Maki chuckled. He also have not eaten his lunch. Are you hungry, Naruto? Naruto merely nodded and to at least lighten up his mood, he asked again, so, come on. We will eat together. Just tell me where do you want to eat? Maki offered his hand and the boy hesitantly grabbed it. Maki pulled him up to his feet and the two started walking. I want to eat at Ichiraku's ramen. The boy said. Ichiraku, Maki said to no one particular, well, it has been a long time since I ate there. Minato liked ramen and he used to treat me and Kakashi. Who's Minato? The blonde boy asked, looking at Maki. Maki cursed softly at himself. He rubbed his head, oh, he's a friend of mine. Maki breathed in relief that the boy did not press the question further. After all, it was the third's orders that the boy is to not know of his heritage until he come of age. This is to protect him from the Rock Country as they are the enemies of the fourth and would not want his son to be a threat to them. Despite now being at peace, Konoha and the Rock are still not in friendly terms. They will attack each other on sight and that is why it would be best to avoid such conflict. They reached Ichiraku Ramen a few minutes later. Maki observed that the villagers were glaring at the boy. Some of them whispered among another and others attempted to say something harsh to the boy but thought better of it as he was accompanied by a ninja. Hi, old man. Naruto said loudly upon entering the shop. The man wearing a white shirt turned around and saw Naruto. He gave a smile, oh, Naruto. So good to see my favorite customer. The younger woman came from the back and greeted Naruto. Naruto, what would you have for today? My usual, am Nichin. The woman, with long brown hair nodded and turned to Maki. Maki and Am looked at each other and Am blushed. Maki too blushed, but he tried to hide it. The old man, known as Tucci, asked Maki, so, what would you have? Maki snapped out of his gaze and looked at the old man, I guess the shrimp ramen will be good. Tucci nodded and the two started to prepare their customers' meals. Naruto was actually drooling in anticipation, fidgeting around in his seat and asking the chef to hurry up. Maki chuckled to himself. It seems that Naruto has the same appetite for ramen as his father. After a few minutes, Am brought 2 large bowls of ramen. One, she handed it to Naruto and the other to Am. Maki thanked her and she blushed once more. Maki was actually smiling and he knew that he somehow caught her attention. Not that he minded, she was quite beautiful in his eyes. Itadikamasu. Naruto said loudly, breaking his chopsticks. Maki, having his manners, calmly broke the chopsticks and ate slowly while Naruto ate his ramen with unmatchable speed. It was probably a record and Maki observed that as the fourth had better manners than Naruto. Well, he can't really blame Naruto since he is right now an orphan and had no one to teach him about table manners. So, Naruto, Maki said, turning to look at the boy, how is life at the orphanage? Naruto stopped eating. He had a depressed look suddenly and did not answer Maki's question. What's wrong? Maki asked, worry in his voice. I no longer live in the orphanage. What? Maki was now standing up now from shock. What happened? He knew that Naruto was supposed to live at the orphanage, that was the deal. They kicked me out of the orphanage 2 weeks ago. They said they did not want to take care of me because I'm a demon. I have been living in the streets and just taken scraps of food. Sometimes I come here an old man and Am Nichin offers me free ramen. That news literally took a toll on Maki's temper. He slammed his fists on the table, shocking the 3 people in the ramen stand. This greatly angered the replicator as Naruto was actually kicked out just because he contained the Kyuubi. It's not like as if he was the Kyuubi himself. He cursed, feeling like destroying the orphanage, but refrained himself from such thoughts. Naruto, once you are done eating with your lunch, you are coming with me to the Hokage. Naruto looked at Maki with a scared expression on his face, please mister. Don't hurt me. Naruto, Maki said, interrupting Naruto, I'm not going to hurt you. We just need to solve this little problem with the Hokage on why you were kicked out of the orphanage. Naruto slowly nodded and started eating his ramen, slowly this time. Maki was trying to calm himself down. This village has definitely disrespected the fourth. His son was being treated like trash when he is actually the savior of the village. If he wasn't born, Minato would not have anyone to place the Kyuubi in and the village would have been annihilated. After Naruto was done, Maki paid for their meals and he grabbed Naruto by the wrist. He formed a simple seal and looked down at Naruto, don't let go. After that, the two of them disappeared in a puff of smoke and appeared at the Hokage tower. Naruto was amazed on how he got here, but did not question on how he got here. After all, Maki was a ninja, so he knew this must be a jutsu he performed. Maki let go of Naruto's wrist and the two walked into the Hokage tower, making their way to the Hokage's room. It took a while to get there and Maki took the time to calm himself down. Not because he was angered at the Hokage but at the villagers. He couldn't believe that his own sister-in-law was one of them. When they finally reached the door leading to the Hokage's room, Maki knocked on the door. "Enter," a voice said. Maki opened the door and led Naruto in. The Hokage was having a smoke with his pipe and was quite surprised to see Maki brining in Naruto. Sarutobi looked at Maki and then took a quick glance to Naruto and then back to Maki. "What is it, Maki?" Sarutobi asked, blowing out a puff of smoke. "Hokage-sama," Maki began, bowing slightly, "I have urgent matters that I need to discuss with you, and it regards Naruto here." Sarutobi immediately put his full attention and took out his pipe. He placed the pipe back in his drawer. He rested his chin on the palm of his right hand. "So, what is it?" "Hokage-sama, according to Naruto, he was kicked out of the orphanage 2 weeks ago. Naruto said they kicked him out for saying he was a demon, though I think that they are crazy for saying such things." Sarutobi listened to every word and nodded slowly. He was impressed that Maki could come up with something to say that he did not know about the Kyuubi inside Naruto. "So, what do you propose, Maki?" "We definitely cannot put Naruto here back into the orphanage. I wanted to take Naruto to live with me, but I can't do that as I have to take care of my niece and my sister-in-law. So, I was thinking that we give Naruto a room in an apartment." Silence. The Hokage seemed to be in deep thought thinking on what Maki said. Naruto himself liked the idea that he could live by himself, but he wondered how he was going to live with no money. "I guess," the Hokage finally said, "that is the best possible solution. For today, Naruto can live with me and I will find him a place to stay by tomorrow." But old man Naruto started to protest but was interrupted once again. "Naruto." Maki scolded the blonde boy, "This is the Hokage. You have to show respect to him." Sarutobi started to laugh lightly, holding his pipe. "It's okay, Maki." "So, what is the problem, young man?" Naruto rubbed the back of his head. "How will I live with no money?" "That is not a problem." The Hokage replied, "I will give you a weekly allowance. But you will have to spend it wisely." Naruto thanked the Hokage and was actually smiling from ear to ear. With that taken care of, Maki thanked the Hokage for his time and said goodbye to Naruto. He formed the simple seal once again and was about to be gone when he felt someone tugging his right hand. He looked to find Naruto pulling his hand. "Hey, Maki. Will you visit me when you can? I get awfully lonely and you are one of the adults to treat me nicely other than the old man at the raiment stand." Maki looked at the boy and he could hardly reject that. He looked so cute and he was the fourth son, so he could not see why not. "Sure. I'll visit you when Hokage tells me your address." With that, he disappeared from the Hokage's office. Naruto grinned happily and started to take a seat next to the Hokage, talking about his day. The Hokage also took this opportunity to escape from the load of paperwork stacked right in front of him. "I really am getting too old for this job," the Hokage thought to himself. The sun was already starting to set below the mountains and Maki started to make his way home. He spent the rest of the afternoon after delivering Naruto to the Hokage was training. He may have been considered a powerful ninja by the 5 countries, but that doesn't mean he cannot improve himself. After all, he's still nothing compared to anyone of the legendary Sannin. His stomach was grumbling once more. He realized he did not really eat his lunch at the ramen stand earlier today, since Naruto told him about the orphanage, he did not finish eating his ramen. He placed 2 of his hands in his pockets to warm himself. It was getting strangely cold. He suddenly thought about the girl at the ramen stand. Am is her name, Maki thought to himself. She was cute to him and looked to be fairly young. Maki was about 27 years old, while she seems to be either in her late teens or early 20s. He sighed softly. How can he stand a chance with her when her father is watching her every day? He remembered his brother had always told him that he either had no abilities to get a girl or was too shy. He chuckled to himself. That was a conversation that occurs every day whenever they meet ever since he got married to Sayuki, his sister-in-law. He was taken out of his thoughts when he sighted his house. Or more his brother's house, which inhabits his niece and sister-in-law. He opened the door and then closed it behind him, as quiet as possible. He could smell food being cooked in the kitchen and took a quick glance at the kitchen. He saw his niece watching her mother cooking their dinner. Sakura was curiously looking into the pot as Sayuki stirred the insides of the pot. The sight of his niece watching her mother cook brought a smile to his face. What a happy family it is, if only her father was still alive. Damn it, why did you have to die? Maki thought at his brother. Now, Maki has to take care of his brother's family, not that he minded them. He loved his niece like he was her daughter and Sayuki like a sister, despite the arguments he had with her. He then sneaked past them and walked upstairs to relieve himself. He had to take a bath before dinner. That would relax him. He walked into his room and started undressing himself. He wrapped a towel on his waist and walked into the bathroom. He locked the door behind and then hanged the towel on a towel rack and then walked into the shower. He let out a groan of relief as the water poured down. He could feel every strain of his muscles start to relax and he started washing himself clean. He was quite dirty from the fight he had with that missing nin earlier today. At least now he had the money to support this family for a week. He was also given 3 days to relax by the Hokage before he has to report for his next mission. After about 7 minutes of washing himself, he walked out of the shower and wiped himself dry. Once that was done, he wrapped that same towel to his waist and walked out of the bathroom to his room. He then picked out a tank top and black shorts. There was a knock on his door and he opened it and found his niece there, smiling at him. He smiled back, "What is it, Sakura? Mummy says that dinner is ready." "Alright then. Let's go before your mummy beats uncle, eh?" Sakura laughed at her uncle and was then grabbed by Maki. He held her tight and placed her on his back, giving her a piggyback ride. He started to run, making his way to the dining room with Sakura laughing the whole way. When they reached the dining room, they found Sayuki placing the last dish on the table. Sayuki smiled at the two of them and took a seat. It was a round table. Sayuki and Sakura sat next to each other, while Maki on the opposite of Sayuki. There was one empty seat and the seat used to belong to his brother. They all started to eat in silence, and Sayuki had to help Sakura to eat some of her food, such as cutting the meat into smaller pieces. After dinner, Sayuki was in the kitchen cleaning up and washing the dishes, while Maki and Sakura were watching something on TV. It was Sakura's favorite show, and Maki did not really pay attention to the show as it actually bore him, but he had to endure it for the sake of his niece. "Alright, time to bed little missy," Maki instructed the moment the show finished. Sakura pouted, "Come on, Uncle Maki. Can't I stay up a little longer?" "Of course you can." "Really?" Sakura had a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Yes, when you're old enough." With that, he quickly grabbed her and ran up the stairs with Sakura complaining throughout the whole journey to her room. Maki had to kick the bedroom door open since his hands are occupied. They entered the room and he placed Sakura on her bed. Sakura accepted her fate and hugged one of her stuffed bears. Maki smiled at the sight of his niece and placed her blanket up to her shoulders. He rubbed a strain of pink hair away from her face. "Sweet dreams, my little angel." Sakura was already sleeping and did not hear Maki. She just shifted in her bed and Maki quietly and slowly closed her bedroom door and left the door slightly open for some light to enter her room. He walked back down and saw down on a couch, watching another show. Sayuki joined him a few minutes later, taking a seat at the other end of the couch. She placed both of her feet on the couch and turned to face Maki. "Is she asleep?" Maki nodded, "Yeah. Don't worry, I won't let her stay up late until she's old enough." Sayuki sighed, "You shouldn't promise her that. Now she will be expecting to stay up late when she's old enough. A girl do need her beauty sleep and should sleep early." Maki laughed nervously, Sorry. I'll keep that in mind." "That's what you said last time." "I did." Sayuki rolled her eyes, "You're hopeless." The two shared a laugh and continued watching the TV again. They watched a documentary and history about the Sand Village. Maki knew most of the facts. After all, he is a ninja. It's not like the show is going to give out important information of the Sand Village. This show is more for the normal citizens that do not know anything about the ninja world. When the program ended, they started to switch every lights out. They switched off the TV and the lights. When that was done, they said goodnight to each other and went to their respective rooms. Sayuki's room was closer to Sakura since she is the mother. Maki closed his bedroom door and plopped down onto his bed. He rested his head on his pillow and two of his hands on the back of his head, staring at the ceiling. He thought about his brother and then it shifted to Naruto. At least now Naruto will have his own place to stay and Maki will be there for him as a friend. He wondered if he can teach Naruto some jutsus to help him. He will have to ask the Hokage for permission for that. He closed his eyes and soon drifted off to sleep. Naruto woke up in his new apartment, yawning loudly. He remembered being carried to his new apartment by the Hokage and then being tucked to bed. He wondered if that was how it felt being tucked to bed by a grandfather. He had never had such a peaceful sleep since he could remember. He always had trouble sleeping in the orphanage and he was finally out of that hell. He was so relieved. Yesterday was the best day of his life. First he was saved by a man from an attack and now he had a new place to live with no adult scolding him and beating him for even the slightest thing, such as spilling milk or something. He got off his bed and started to make his way to the bathroom. He looked at himself in the mirror and for the first time in his 5 years, he realized he had some sort of whisker marks. 3 whisker marks on each cheek. He touched them and it felt real. He wondered about it and after a couple of seconds, stopped what he was doing and brushed his teeth and took a quick shower. Once he was done, he realized that he needed to eat breakfast and since he just moved in here yesterday, he had no food or anything. He decided to eat at Ichiraku Ramen. After all, he was treated by that guy yesterday and now he was given some money by the Hokage, so he may as well spend it. He changed into another of his orange jumpsuit and then walked out of his apartment, locking the door behind him. As he walked down the streets, he ignored the hateful stares he is receiving right now by the villagers. Some of them merely ignored him as they grow tired of insulting him. The only adult that was never mean to him was that old man at the ramen stand. He just said that he knew Naruto was a good boy and not as a container. He once asked the old man what he meant by container, and the old man said he was talking about giving him a container of ramen. Tucci was lucky that Naruto bought that excuse. Reaching the ramen stand, he walked in and took a seat on a stool. Am saw Naruto and gave a heartwarming smile. "Hi Naruto. You're back." He smiled back, "Yeah. I'm here for breakfast and I can't wait." She laughed, "Alright, so what will you have?" "One large miso pork." "Oh, and where is the old man?" She took down his order while answering him. "Dad's at the back, preparing the broth for the morning. Since we're still preparing our shop, you will have to wait a couple more minutes than usual. Are you okay with that?" Naruto grumbled on his seat. "Fine, just hurry." She chuckled and just before she gave her father the order, she leaned down near Naruto and asked, "Where's your friend from yesterday? The guy with the dark pink hair?" "I don't know, why?" Nichan wants to ask him on a date. Naruto responded, giving her his famous foxy grin. Instantly blushed hard and went to the back of the store to give Naruto's orders to Naruto. At the same time, a certain pink-haired 5-year-old just woken up from her slumber. She yawned cutely and looked out her window. The sun was shining brightly into her room and she had to use her hands to block the sunlight. She scratched her long pink hair and then started to make her way to the bathroom for a cool, refreshing shower. It took her about 10 minutes to finish cleaning herself and once she had dried her hair and body, she started to brush her teeth. As she was brushing her teeth, she looked at her forehead. She frowned at the sight. It was slightly larger than normal. She had been teased a few times by some of the older kids. If her mother, or even worse, her uncle knows about this, those kids will for sure not see the next day. Her uncle can be very protective at times. She doesn't want the other kids to think that she needs someone to fight for her, and that is the only reason she has not told her mother or uncle about her bullies. She just hoped that today would be okay. Walking down the stairs and into the dining room for breakfast, she only found her mother there. That's strange, normally Uncle Maki would eat breakfast with us. Sakura thought to herself. Taking a seat next to her mother, she started eating her pancakes her mother had prepared for breakfast. "Mom, where is Uncle Maki?" she asked her mom. "He had to do an early report with the Hokage," she said, pouring Sakura a glass of milk. Sakura merely nodded to her mother's response and continued eating her breakfast. She ate quickly and she was running late to meet one of her only friend, Ino. She was a blonde girl and from a ninja clan, the Yamanaka clan. After she ate her breakfast, she ran up to her room and grabbed a red cloth that was given to her by Ino. It was given to hide her huge forehead. She could never thank Ino for not teasing her on her forehead and being her friend. She really thought that she would never have a friend for her entire life. She left her house and started to make her way to the park. Ino had said that they would meet her at the swings. She tied the red cloth on her head to allow her hair to fall forward, thus blocking her forehead. When she finally reached the swings, she found that Ino was not yet there, so she sat at the swings to wait for her until her nightmare arrived. 4 boys, around the age of 10 to 12, were walking in the park and when they spotted the pink-haired girl, started to make their way towards her. She hung her head low, hoping that they have not yet seen her, but she already knew that her pink hair was a dead giveaway. The leader, a rather plump kid with brown hair reached her first, crossing his hands across his chest. "Hi, forehead. What are you doing here?" Sakura did not look up. They will definitely know that she was trying to hide her forehead with her hair and they will definitely started to pull it. She winced in pain when she felt someone pulling her hair. "Hi, he's talking to you," one of the boys said, pulling her hair so that she would face them. Sakura could already feel her tears starting to pour down her eyes. She hated this. They all started to tease and pull her hair. Some of them would hit her arm and throw sand at her face, but all of it stopped when she heard a voice. "Hi, what are you guys doing?" a voice commanded. The plump leader stopped what he was doing and looked at the voice. It belonged to a little blonde kid with an orange shirt with blue sweatpants. "Why don't you just run along, kid, before you also get hurt?" "I will, once you stop bullying her. A beautiful and cute girl like her does not deserve to be treated like this," the boy yelled, pointing at Sakura. Despite being in a bad situation, Sakura could not help but blush that the boy had said she was cute and actually beautiful. However, she knew that the boy was going to be in trouble when the plump leader started to crack his knuckles. He called 2 of his friends to follow him while the other 2 held onto Sakura. "I'm going to beat you up just the way my dad tells me to beat you up, you stupid boy," the leader sneered. Naruto, despite trying to be brave, knew he was in a bad situation. He tried to think of a way to beat the older kids until he spotted someone that just came on time to help. The man was on one of the tree's tree branch watching the whole thing. Naruto just glanced at the man for a quick second and then turned to face the older boys again, crossing his chest and gave a foxy grin. "You had better leave now before a friend of mine does it himself," Naruto explained with a very confident voice. The boy on the right of the leader scoffed, "And who is your friend?" Another pathetic 5-year-old kid like yourself. You are just making me laugh. The three boys then felt something land directly behind them. The leader of the 5 boys could tell that whoever was the blonde's friend was most likely an adult. They slowly turned to face a man with dark pink hair just like Sakura, and the hair was shoulder length. The man was wearing a Konoha headband and a Chunin vest. They gulped loudly and slowly started to back away. Like my friend said, leave now before you incur my wrath. The man instructed them calmly. They didn't need to be told twice. All of them fled the scene, some actually tumbled to the ground while running. Maki watched them run away in fear and then turned to look at Naruto, but he has already disappeared from his spot. He looked around and found him kneeling in front of his niece, asking her he was okay. Maki watched from where he was as Naruto helped his niece up. It is really sad that such a nice boy like Naruto would be treated cruelly by the villagers. He can't wait to give something that might excite Naruto. Are you okay? Naruto asked, pulling her up. Sakura merely nodded, thank you. She said, not realizing that a tear raced down her cheek. Hi, Naruto said, making Sakura look up at him, a beautiful girl like you shouldn't cry. Why would those guys treat you like that anyway? She hesitated. If she told him that it was because of her huge forehead, he would definitely push her away. Come on, tell me. Naruto pushed. She hesitated, because of my forehead. Naruto was now confused, your forehead. What's wrong with your forehead? It is huge. She then untied her bow and allowed her hair to part away, revealing an indeed large forehead. Naruto looked at her forehead and then chuckled softly. Sakura heard this and thought he must be laughing at her forehead. Having a huge forehead is not bad. Actually, I think it makes you more beautiful. Naruto complimented her. Sakura looked up and saw that he was smiling at her. She was confused. This is the first time someone said that he liked her forehead. She did not know what to think. Naruto then asked, say, what's your name? She looked at the young boy in the eyes and realized he had cerulean blue eyes. Those eyes were magical to her, so beautiful. It was as blue as the ocean and the boy was waving in front of her. Are you okay? Maki, who was watching the whole thing, chuckled softly at this. He was now leaning against a tree, his arms crossed on his chest. Maki looked at his niece lost in her thought. Don't tell me she is already falling at such a young age. He thought to himself. Sakura is now finally back to the real world. Sorry, she apologized, my name is Haruno Sakura. Naruto nodded, I am Uzumaki Naruto. Can we be friends? Sakura looked dumbfounded. This boy is so straightforward and she didn't mind being her friend. He did look kind of cute. I guess so. Naruto gave another of his foxy grin, here, why don't you meet my friend? Where did he go now? Naruto started to look around and then found him. He ran to the man beneath a tree. Maki saw Naruto coming, so he emerged from the shadows of the tree, good morning Naruto. Naruto waved, morning. Thanks for helping me just now. Maki scoffed, that's alright. I just happened to pass by and saw you helping that girl. That's a pretty honorable thing to do, but you were smaller and outnumbered. They had to be taught a lesson anyway. Yeah, now come on. Naruto said, grabbing Maki's wrists and dragging him along. Maki was quite surprised at the boy's strength that the boy was able to pull him along. It's not that he resisted, but he could tell that the boy was quite strong for his age. Sakura had her jaw open when Naruto saw his friend. Oh no, what is Naruto doing with my uncle? Now he's going to know about those bullies. Sakura thought. Will you calm down? It's not like he's going to kill us. A voice scolded Sakura. What? Who's that? Sakura knew that no one was talking to her, so who was that? I'm in your head. Let's just say that I am your inner self. The voice, who looked exactly like Sakura, said. What? Inner self? What the heck are you talking about? We'll talk later. It looks like your new crush and your uncle has arrived. The inner self then faded away. Sakura was about to say something when she felt a presence right in front of her. She looked at Naruto and then to her uncle. She gulped loudly when her uncle looked at her with eyebrows raised. Suddenly, he had a happy expression on his face, smiling at her. Now Sakura was confused. Hey, Sakura-chan, this is my friend, Maki. Naruto introduced to her very own uncle, which was quite weird for Maki and Sakura. Maki looked down at Naruto, you know, Naruto, I never told you my name yesterday. How do you know my name? Naruto laughed nervously and scratched his head, I heard the old man call you Maki yesterday, so I assumed that was your name. Maki nodded slowly. For a young boy to pay attention to something he shouldn't, that's quite impressive. Okay, fine. As long as you weren't stalking me or something. Naruto grinned and then turned back to the pink-haired girl, so, Sakura, why don't we play on the swings or something? Sakura shrugged, I was waiting for Ino, so I guess we could play for a while. Naruto nodded and Sakura sat on one of the swings. Naruto was about to ask Maki to help them push when he realized that he has disappeared. He was a ninja, so Naruto was not surprised that he did not realize he was gone. Shrugging off, he sat on the swing next to Sakura and the two just swing by themselves. Sakura, in the meantime, was having an argument with her inner self. For the last time, I don't like him. He's just a friend. Sakura said to her inner. Whatever. I am your inner, I know what you truly feel or want, so you may as well stop lying to yourself. Her inner replied. I'm just nervous because I have never had a friend that is a boy. Sakura explained. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, what are we going to say to your uncle later? He now knows that we have been bullied and will be overprotective again. I don't know. Sakura said, and the conversation ended there. The two continued playing by the swing when a couple of adults surrounded them, all with angry glares. Sakura looked at each and every one of them, and she cowered in fear. Naruto did not look up. He knew they were all looking at him and he just looked down at the ground. Great, I just had a new friend and these people are now going to ruin it. She will now probably hate me too. Naruto thought to himself and sighed in despair. The villager pushed Naruto off the swing by pushing his head hard. Naruto landed hard on his head, which caused him to cry in pain. He rubbed it only to feel someone kick his back so hard that he coughed as he could feel all his air left his lungs. You demon. How dare you try to befriend one of the unsuspecting child? A female villager spat. Naruto was now at the mercy of this angered mob. He tried to crawl away only to feel someone drag one of his legs back to the center, where they continued kicking him and insulting once again. Sakura watched in shock as her friend gets beaten. One of the villagers grabbed her and held her tight as she watched her friend in the center being kicked. She felt tears running down her cheek and wanted to run next to her new friend, but the villager held her tightly. Then, a large man stepped forward and was about to lay a punch on Naruto in the face when he felt the earth tremble. He was too preoccupied on going to attack Naruto that he did not notice the tremble. Just as he was about to hit Naruto, the ground raised up and covered Naruto. The man punched the protected ground and he yelled in pain as he broke his knuckles. All of the villagers stopped their ranting and assault and stepped back in shock. Then, two figures emerged, each standing in front of Naruto, who was now under that protected shield. One was reading an orange book and his face was mostly covered by a mask and a headband, only revealing his right eye, and had a silver hair. The other was a man with dark pink hair, reaching shoulder length with a kunai drawn. The villagers knew these two men, the two top jounin of the village. The copy ninja and the replicator. You know what really makes me angry, Maki? The silver-haired man asks. Maki, never leaving his eyes off the villagers, shook his head. No. What? When first, villagers attack an innocent child and I have to come here when I could be reading my book. Maki rolled his eyes. I think anything can make you angry when it involves your book. Kakashi chuckled. I guess you're right. Well, time to disperse the crowd. Kakashi placed his book on his pouch and lazily turned to face the crowd. And then, with unbelievable speed, he formed seals. No one could be able to see what he is doing. Oten. Shaking of the earth technique. The ground around Kakashi started to shake wildly. The villagers quickly ran away from the copy ninja, screaming at the top of their lungs. Maki chuckled at the sight. This technique is used normally for invasion on a village. It causes no harm, but when used on a village, the villagers will panic and cause chaos in the village, and the ninjas will not be able to properly defend the village. When the shake stopped, Kakashi released the technique and released the technique that was protecting Naruto. He was hurt quite badly, but he was healing quite fast. Maki shook his head in disbelief. He just left the two alone for a minute to get Kakashi and he was already attacked. You better take your niece home. I'll take care of Naruto here. Kakashi instructed the pink-haired jounin. Maki nodded. You had better take Naruto to the hospital. I'll tell him the good news later tonight. Kakashi nodded and leaned down, grabbing Naruto and holding him up to his chest. He looked at Maki one last time and formed a simple seal. There was a puff of smoke and then Kakashi disappeared along with Naruto. Maki sighed and turned to face her niece, who was crying. She is probably confused and didn't know what is going on. He walked over to her and hugged her, rubbing her back trying to calm her down. It took him several minutes to calm her down and then he wiped her tears on her cheeks. It's okay now. Come on, we have to go home. How come they attacked Naruto, uncle? She asked as Maki held her. Maki did not answer. He knew telling the young generation is forbidden by the Hokage and he couldn't tell her niece. Naruto needs a friend and she might hate him after this. I don't know, Sakura. He lied and he was lucky that Sakura did not ask him any more questions. She snuggled more into his chest and he started walking towards back his house. He would have just jumped on the rooftops, but Sayuki would be pissed off. She had told him that she did not want him to risk dropping Sakura. While she was carrying Sakura, he just remembered the incident on the bullies. Looking down at Sakura, he asked, Sakura, why didn't you tell me about the bullies? Sakura stopped breathing. She had hoped that Maki had forgotten about it, but she was wrong. She gulped, I just didn't want you to always be there for me. I just wanted to not be a burden to you so I thought I can handle it by myself. Sakura then looked away from her uncle. She knew that he was probably going to yell at her and scold her, although he never really did in her entire life. She just realized that her uncle never scolded her for anything and was only threatened by her mother that her uncle will be angry. Those were her mother's words, not his uncle. She looked up at her uncle again and saw that he was looking at her. "Sakura, if you really want to protect yourself without me, you could be like me." "What do you mean?" she asked, confused. Maki smirked, "Well, you can be like a ninja like me, you know. Then perhaps you can protect yourself and your loved ones. Or even the ones that need help like what Naruto did earlier. He helped you when he did not know you yet." Sakura looked at her uncle, trying to find if he was joking. Her mother had always told her to not follow her father's and uncle's footsteps as being a ninja will be too dangerous. But her uncle here said that she can protect herself, which was what she wanted. "I'll think about it," Sakura muttered, but Maki heard it. He smiled as they approached their house. He sighed as he looked up at the ceiling. He was bored out of his mind as he has to spend the night here in the hospital. He's not seriously wounded, but the doctors insisted that they have to make sure and check up on him. And to make things worse, the guy with the mask has left the hospital. He never even got to learn his name. He just said that he was doing his duty and he was concentrating more on his book rather than him. He sighed, placing two of his hands on the back of his head to rest. He started thinking about the pink-haired girl at the park earlier. Sakura. I hope she will still be friends with me after what happened today. Naruto thought. She was his second friend other than Maki. Now he realized that the two have pink hair. Are they related? His thoughts were filled mostly about Sakura. He just couldn't help thinking about her green emerald eyes. They were magical to him and he wanted to know her more, to be closer to her. There was a knock on his door and a nurse opened the door carrying a tray. Naruto looked at the time and knew it was dinner time. He wished hospitals would provide ramen, but all they give are food that they considered healthy like boiled vegetables or porridge. He sat up on his bed as the nurse placed the tray on a table. She left without a word. Naruto started to eat, or tried to eat. If he wasn't hungry, he would not eat, but his stomach was growling for food. He had to hold his breath as he shoved the food into his mouth. You really need to learn to eat healthy food, and this just might help to learn, you know. A voice said from the window. Naruto knew that voice and turned to face him. Naruto smiled, "What brings you here?" Maki shrugged, "You did say that you would like me to visit you as a friend, and since earlier today you were attacked, I thought you would need a friend." "Yeah. Thanks for helping me from the mob." Maki entered the room and sat next to Naruto's bedside. "I didn't stop him. It was Kakashi, the masked guy. I came with him, but he used the earth technique to scare the villagers. He wasn't very friendly." Naruto pointed out. "That's not true. If you get to know him and earn his respect, you will find that he is a good guy. He saved you because he was doing his duty as a ninja, helping the helpless." Naruto nodded slowly, taking another spoonful of broccoli, "I guess." The two remained silent for a while. Naruto just continued eating while Maki looked out the window. He should be at home resting, but he had to come to give Naruto the news that he has got permission by the Hokage. "By the way Maki," Naruto said, "that Sakura girl. Is she in any way related to you?" Maki did not react to the question. He just continued looking out the window and thought on how to answer him. If he said that she is, he might be slightly afraid to befriend her as he knows that someone is watching her, so he thought of the best answer. "No," he answered, "what would make you think that? She has the same color as your hair." "Indeed she has. Anyway Naruto, I came here to tell you something that might make you happy." That put Naruto to his full attention. "What?" "In a year from now," he explained, facing Naruto, "you will enter the academy to learn how to be a ninja. You will be learning for free as the Hokage will be paying for your studies there, so you don't have to worry using your allowance for it. Also, when you are at the age of 10, I will personally train you and teach you some techniques." Naruto had to absorb the whole thing. He had always wanted to become a ninja ever since his first visit with the Hokage. Now he has that chance. And here is a friend, a ninja who must be quite strong, will teach him personally. He has heard that ninjas taught personally will be stronger, as that ninja will get its full attention from his sensei. "Thank you." Naruto replied enthusiastically, grabbing Maki in a hug. Maki smiled and patted Naruto's back. He has heard from the Hokage that it was his dream to become Hokage. Perhaps now he has the chance to show the village what he is capable of. "Alright," Maki said after a couple of seconds, pulling Naruto off the hug, "I and Kakashi will always be watching over you. I will train in you in 5 years' time so you had better pay attention in class. You want to be Hokage, don't you?" Naruto nodded. Maki smiled and ruffled his messy blonde hair. He then walked over to the window, looked at Naruto one last time and jumped out of the window and started to make his way home. It was already 9 at night when Maki reached his house. He still had 2 more days before he is allowed to do missions again. For now, he has to do at the most B rank missions as to not endanger his life. He is the only that is bringing an income for the family, so if he dies, the family will suffer and they have already suffered after his brother's death. He walked into the house and found Sayuki and Sakura watching TV. Well, at least the argument earlier has finished. Flashback, after the attack on Naruto, Maki and Sakura reached their house, and when he walked in, he found Sayuki in the kitchen preparing lunch. Sakura entered the kitchen to help her mum in any way she can. After all, her mother insisted she learn how to cook so that her future husband can appreciate her. Maki went to the back of their house to do his personal training. Their house had a larger compound than the rest and was able to fit the backyard as a training ground where Maki and his brother was able to use it to do small training, such as push-ups. They had to use the training grounds if they wanted to spar. That was when she heard Sayuki shriek. He entered the kitchen, looking for any signs of trouble. He only found Sayuki looking at her daughter with wide eyes. "What did you just say?" Sayuki said, but her voice was so loud that she was practically yelling. "I said I want to become a ninja like Dad and Uncle Maki." Sakura answered while cutting some vegetables, not looking at her mother. "I have already told you that being a ninja is dangerous. You should just be a normal girl, grow up and get married to a wonderful man. Not fighting for your life." "But mother," Sakura protested, "today I was attacked by bullies and—" "You were what?" her mother shrieked, interrupting her daughter. "You heard me, mum, but Uncle Maki was there and Naruto. They helped me and Uncle Maki told me that I can protect myself if I become a ninja. I don't want to depend on others anymore." Sayuki now glared at her brother-in-law who was still standing at the doorway of the kitchen, looking at the two. She walked towards him and poked his chest hard. "How many times have I told you not to convince Sakura to become a ninja?" Maki raised his two hands and backed away. "I didn't convince her. I was merely speaking the truth." They continued arguing until Sayuki finally gave up and went back to cooking. There was no point anyway when two people are against you and you have no one to back you up. They were all silent throughout lunch and no one spoke until Maki left the house. He just said he had to visit someone. Then flashback, at least mother and daughter were now in the same room watching the same thing and Sayuki looked as if she had calmed down. Maki entered the room which didn't go unnoticed. Sayuki merely nodded to acknowledge him while Sakura was smiling brightly. Maki smiled back and then said, "It's time for bed, Sakura." She, for the first time, did not protest. Maki was surprised. She must be in a very good mood to not fight this time. Maki grabbed her wrist and the two started walking toward Sakura's bedroom. When they entered her room, he carried her to her bed. As he placed the blanket up to her chest, he had to ask, "What brings you in such a good mood?" She smiled widely again. "Mum finally agreed." Maki was confused. "Agreed?" She nodded, "Yeah. She said I can join the academy to be a ninja next year." Maki was shocked. Sayuki agreed. He thought. That was quite unbelievable. He was really happy and he smiled. "I see. Well, that's good for you." He bent down and kissed her forehead. He wished her good night and switched off the light. He was about to close the door when Sakura sat up. "Uncle Maki." "Yeah?" he replied, looking through the gap he left open. "Will you train me to become a ninja?" Maki looked at her niece. It was like he was looking at his own brother. He closed his eyes and thought of his brother and then opened them again. "Of course. When the time is right, I will." Sakura thanked her uncle and then laid her head on her pillow. She cuddled one of her stuffed animals and closed her eyes. Just as she was about to drift off to sleep, she thought of a certain blonde-haired boy. Maki was now also resting on his bed. When he was about to walk down the stairs after putting Sakura to sleep, he realized that it was dark downstairs. Sayuki has already switched off everything and must be already sleeping. He sighed and walked back into his room. Now he started thinking on the two kids he will have to train in 5 years' time. He will be able to tell what their talents are when they train. He can perhaps try to make those two fall in love by spending time together. Sakura has probably developed a small crush on Naruto already. He smiled at the thought. He closed his eyes and was now dreaming. The boy woke up at the sound of his alarm ringing. He groaned as he slammed the alarm clock hard, nearly breaking it. He sat up and yawned loudly and nearly passed out by his own bad breath. He had to stretch his body for an entire minute to get him awake and then he made his way to the bathroom to freshen up. Brushing his teeth and taking a shower, it took him about 7 to 8 minutes. Once he was done, he walked into the kitchen and opened one of the cabinets and grabbed a cup of instant ramen, chicken flavor. He cut up all the spices and poured it into the cup and then waited for the water to boil. "Man, I hate waiting to boil the water. Hurry up," Naruto thought. After waiting for 3 minutes, he poured the hot boiling water into the plastic cup and without even waiting for the noodles to soften, started to dig in. Despite the heat, he was able to eat at record speed and in just 2 or 3 minutes, he has already consumed his breakfast and drank down the broth. He looked at the clock which read 7:45. "Shit, I'm going to be late," Naruto said to himself, kicking himself off his chair. He opened and slammed the door behind him and locked it quickly. he ran off with insane speed. Naruto ignored the glares that were given to him by the villagers. He fixed his goggles on his forehead as they were slipping down. It took him about 5 minutes when he finally sighted the academy. He then stopped running and then started walking, gathering back his breath. He still has about 10 more minutes before class starts, so he decided to wait for Sakura for a while. He took a seat on a bench outside the school, humming a tune. Sakura and Naruto has become very close to each other throughout the years. They have become best friends, and some has rarely seen them not together when in school. The only time they are separated is when school is over. They eat together during lunch, they play together and even sit next to each other in class. Of course, the villagers have tried countless times to separate Sakura from Naruto, as they did not want the demon child to be with anyone, especially a girl. However, Sakura is persistent, and also her uncle, Maki the replicator, watches over them almost every time. Even Kakashi the copy ninja watches over them, so the villagers cannot do anything. Naruto waved at a few friends as they passed by. The only person that Naruto has not befriended is the survivor of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Sasuke. It's not that Naruto never tried. It's just that he seems to be uninterested to have friends. The only thing that Sasuke seems interested in Naruto is his ability to be the only student in class to be equal in him when they have to spar against one another. "Hi, Naruto." A voice said, and Naruto looked at the source of the voice. He turned and saw Sakura waving at him with Ino next to her. Naruto smiled and waited for the pink-haired girl to reach him. His heartbeat increased as he watched her walk towards him, as he seems lost in watching her laugh as she talks with her blonde friend. "Good morning, Sakura-chan." Naruto greeted Sakura when she finally reached him. "Good morning to you, too. Have you waited long for me, Naruto-kun?" She replied back as Naruto raised himself from his seat. "Not really, just a few minutes actually." He answered, and the three of them walked into the academy. Although neither has admitted to each other, Sakura and Naruto actually likes each other but are too shy to admit to one another. There have been occasional hints given, but they either just take it as a friendly gesture or ignore it. As they walked in the academy's hallway, Sakura turned to look at her spiky blonde-haired friend. She just couldn't get enough of those ocean blue eyes, and the whisker marks on his cheek makes him look cute. He actually looks better now ever since Sakura suggested he change his orange jumpsuit attire. He now wears a black shirt and dark blue pants. Also, he was given a white cloak by the Hokage, saying that it was his property. Naruto now looks almost exactly like the fourth Hokage now with that white cloak. Naruto turned to face Sakura, looking directly into her green emerald eyes. "So, Sakura-chan. Are you ready for the test Iruka-sensei said he will give us today?" Sakura nodded. "I have already studied them last night. The 5 chapters that Iruka-sensei told us to study are quite easy to remember." "5 chapters?" Naruto said in disbelief. "I thought he said 4 chapters. Sakura sighed. Naruto could actually be one of the top students in class if he paid more attention. He has the brain, but he just doesn't use it. "Yeah, 5 chapters. Naruto scratched his head, turning the corner. "What is the 5th chapter?" "I remember," he said, "studying the chakra system, the great ninja war, Konoha history and types of ninjutsu. The last chapter to study is the history of Konoha's Hokages." Naruto sighed in relief. "That's fortunate. I know each and every detail of every Hokage. Especially the 4th Hokage." The three of them reached the door of the classroom. They opened it and find that most of the students were already seated on their respective seats. As usual, Naruto and Sakura sat next to each other while Ino went arguing with the rest of the other fangirls in an attempt to sit next to Sasuke. Naruto frankly is surprised that Sakura is one of the girls, other than Hinata, to not show any affections towards the Uchiha survivor. Of course, the reason for that is because Sakura already likes Naruto, so that isn't a problem. At that moment, the door of the classroom opened and Iruka entered the room, carrying a stack of papers. Iruka walked to his desk and placed the stack of papers on his desk and placed his hands on his hips. "Alright class," Iruka said, his voice filled with authority, "I hope you have studied for your test. Once I have distributed the test papers to all of you, you can start your test. And no cheating." Iruka then started distributing the papers he brought in earlier. Naruto leaned close to Sakura's ear and whispered, "Good luck. Although you won't really need it." Naruto then leaned back to his original position. Sakura giggled and slightly blushed, but she was able to hide it thanks to her long pink hair. She received her paper, took out her pencil and started writing her answers. 3 ninjas walked into the Konoha gates after finishing a 3-day A-rank mission. They had to deal with a couple of bandits that has been attacking a nearby village. The bandits were easily disposed of, but the reason why it was rated an A-rank was because there were several bandit camps, so they had to eliminate each and every camp. The 3 Jounins started to make their way to the Hokage Tower to deliver their report. There was no doubt that they would complete their mission anyway. 2 of the 3 Jounins were the top ninja of Konoha and were given nicknames for their respective talents. The 3rd Jounin is Genma, although he is not as good as the 3 does not mean that he can be underestimated. Maki fixed his long dark pink hair as it was starting to irritate his eyes. He sometimes wanted to just cut its length but decided against it. They took out the bandits with ease that Maki thought that it should actually be rated a B rank mission rather than an A rank. Kakashi was reading his perverted orange book as usual. Maki wondered how he can still keep his eye on the road without colliding with anybody or object. As they finally approached the Hokage tower, the three Jounin stared at each other, wondering who should do the honors to report their mission to the Hokage. "I have to read my book," Kakashi simply stated, walking away. Maki turned to look at the brown-haired Jounin next to him. "I have to take the pay for my family. I hope you understand," he explained. Genma gave an understanding smile. "Well, at least your reason is the truth, unlike Kakashi-san." Maki smirked and he started to make his way to the hall where ninjas go to receive missions. "That is also where they get the pay. Well, at least I get extra pay than usual. An A rank mission. I should be able to support the family for 5 days at least," he thought happily. After he collected his share of completing the mission, he decided to make his way home. He has to give a certain amount of money to Sayuki for her to do the family's grocery shopping. As he made his way towards his house, he passed by the abandoned Uchiha compound. "It's been what, 2 years since the Uchiha massacre?" he thought. Yes, 2 years has passed since one of the most powerful clan in Konoha was destroyed. And it was destroyed by one man. Uchiha Itachi. The man who unlocked his clan's weapon at the age of 8 and became an Anbu captain at the age of 13. He was indeed a Uchiha prodigy. Maki himself was also selected to become the Hokage's personal Anbu, but he refused, stating that he wanted to serve Konoha rather than just staying around Konoha to watch the Hokage. He respected the Hokage, but he loved his home. When he reached his house, he opened his front door. He found his sister-in-law sitting on a chair in the living room. Maki grinned when Sayuki turned to face him. She was actually expecting him to return today. They have really grown close throughout the years. He thought their relationship would worsen after Sakura entered the academy, but Sayuki finally thought that it was best she became a ninja and forgave Maki. Although in his opinion, she didn't have to ask for forgiveness. "So, how was the mission?" she asked him, walking towards him and putting her handbag on her shoulder. "Oh, it was quite a waste of time. It was easy but the good side of it that it brought in extra money for us." So he started to take out a certain amount of cash he just received. When he got the amount he wanted to give to her, he handed it to her. She took it and put the money in her purse. She kissed Maki on the cheek and walked out of the door, leaving the replicator alone in the house. Maki stretched himself and made his way to the kitchen for a quick snack. He opened the fridge and found some cheese, butter and a quarter of chocolate cake. He opened a couple of cabinets and finally found what he was looking for in the third cabinet. He grabbed a piece of cheese and then took 2 slices of bread. He placed the cheese on one of the bread and covered the cheese with the second bread. After he finished making his quick sandwich, he placed everything back to its respective places. Taking his sandwich, he walked to the second floor and walked to the balcony. He ate his sandwich while watching children with each other below. Watching the children playing with each other brought back memories of his childhood and his longtime crush. Flashback, the couple of children were playing in the busy streets of Konoha. It was the reign of the third Hokage known as the Professor. There were 2 pink-haired boys running from 3 other boys and about 4 girls. They were all playing tag, and since that the 2 pink-haired boys were the best in running, the group decided that they all have to try and catch the 2 of them. Maki was laughing while running. "Hi, Nai-san, can't you keep up?" Maki said to his older brother. Inaki, the older brother of Maki, scoffed as he avoided a boy who tried to grab him. "I'm just getting warm up." The 2 continued running, jumping over dustbins and avoiding the citizens of Konoha as they ran by. When the 2 of them finally lost sight of their pursuers, the brothers ran into an alley to rest and catch their breath. "Man," Hanaki said, leaning on a wall, "those guys are really catching up. They seem to know how we work." "Yeah," Maki agreed, "but we still lost them." As if on cue, the 2 brothers were suddenly pushed on the ground as felt something heavy on them. Maki groaned in pain and looked up to find a girl with brown eyes. She has brown hair and had her tied in a ponytail. Despite being 8 years old, Maki has a huge crush on her, and his affections were pretty obvious. He had constantly asked her on dates although she refused, saying that they were too young or she was too busy. Of course, Maki knew the truth. She was interested in another student in the academy. That guy was much more good-looking and he was from the Nara clan. He is a freaking genius, and Maki, despite studying and working hard, could not keep up with him. "Damn it, Himura." Maki muttered, "You nearly scared me to death." Himura giggled and got off of Maki, pulling him up. "Sorry. I guess we finally got you too." Inaki chuckled as he dusted the dirt off his body. "I guess you guys finally caught us. So now we can play like normal, no more the 2 of us running from you guys." "Yeah." The group of pursuers cheered. Maki however was looking at Himura the whole time. He always admired her. Even though her brown eyes are not green or blue, to him, it is the most beautiful eyes he has ever seen. If she unties her brown hair, he was even more mesmerized. He sighed as he knew that he can never have her. But that doesn't mean he can try to win her affections. The group of children then restarted the round, playing tag again, and this time, Maki and Hanaki were the pursuers. End of flashback. Maki did not even realize he had finished eating his sandwich. He was so lost in thought that he didn't even know he finished his snack. Himura. Why did you have to leave Konoha? Maki thought sadly. She knew she migrated to the sand village with her family. The main reason she left was that her longtime crush, the Nara kid, had died in combat and she was depressed for weeks. Her family could not bear to take care of her like that and decided to move away. They claimed that Konoha has too many painful memories of her daughter's love, so they moved. Himura never even said goodbye to him. Maki and Himura were good friends, despite being in a different team. Himura was teamed up with that Nara kid and he knew that the two were dating, but Maki never gave up. He still asked her on dates, but not as much as he did. He was just happy that she was happy with her crush. Still, at the age of 16, she left the village. Maki never saw her again, but he still kept a special place of her in his heart. He had and will always love her. If he couldn't get her, no other will have him. He is, despite having a weird hair color, good looking for his age. That is one of the reason why he actually liked Am. He reminded her of Himura, but he knew that she cannot replace her. That is the only reason why he has not asked Am on a date, despite her constant flirting. Maki walked back into his house and walked into his room. He pushed away the thoughts of Himura and decided to rest. After all, he has to meet Naruto and Sakura today after they finish school. They were now 10 years old and therefore has to start the day that he had promised Naruto and Sakura. Naruto and Sakura were glad when their last class finally ended. It was the end of the day and they can now go home. The two of them as usual walk next to each other, talking. So, how the Testaruka sensei gave us earlier? Sakura asked her blonde-haired crush. Naruto shrugged, stifling a yawn, it was pretty easy for me. I think I can actually beat you this time. Sakura scoffed, yeah right. That is like the 50th time you told me this. Naruto rubbed his hair and just laughed. Sakura watched as he laughed and couldn't help a small blush. He looked so cute. Sakura thought inside her head. Yeah. Just look at him. Now, go and give him a full kiss on the lips. Her inner said. Yeah, and wait, what? Sakura was shocked. Her inner actually said that. Oh come on. You know you want to. Her inner said, giving Sakura images of Naruto and her kissing. Shut up. We are too young and. Oh, so you do want to kiss him? Her inner interrupted Sakura. Will you just shut up? Besides, I don't even know if he likes me. Sakura told her inner. Sakura-chan, are you okay? Naruto asked, worried. He was waving his hand in front of her face. Sakura shook her head to clear her thoughts. She cursed softly at her inner, yeah, Sakura replied, smiling, I just spaced out for a while. Oh, okay. Well, you want to come and eat ramen with me? He asked as the two of them walked out of the school. Sakura started to sweat. Even though Naruto asked it to eat as friends, she thought of it as a date. Yeah, I mean no of course. She stuttered. Sakura-chan, are you really okay? You're stuttering. He was now concerned. Sakura rarely stuttered. The only girl he knew that stuttered was Hinata. Before she could answer, a man suddenly appeared in front of them. The two looked up at him and they instantly recognized him. Who could not recognize a person who has dark pink hair like his crush? So, Maki started, looking at the two kids, how was school today? Good. The two answered in unison. Maki nodded, okay, that's good. Anyway, I came here for a reason today. Yeah, Naruto agreed, you rarely come to meet us at school. I was about to eat some ramen with Sakura-chan. Sakura blushed at the thought. She was so waiting to eat with him, but her uncle had to interrupt. She had to be careful when talking to her uncle when Naruto was present as Maki told her that he did not want Naruto to know that he was Sakura's uncle. She never knew why but just agreed. So what is your purpose, Maki-san? Sakura said, feeling weird calling her uncle by name although her uncle didn't mind. Naruto, Maki said sternly, you remember the conversation I had with you 5 years ago? The one I said that I will start training you when you reach the age I specified. Naruto nodded, yeah, when I am Naruto now knew what Maki was trying to say. His eyes went big as the realization struck him. It's today, isn't it? Naruto asked Maki, excited that he gets to be trained by Maki. He has, over the 5 years of his time at the academy, heard teachers talking about Maki when he showed up. He heard that he is one of the top jounins of Konoha and had a nickname, though he never heard of it yet. Naruto-kun, what's he talking about? Sakura asked the boy next to him. Naruto looked at Sakura with excitement, Maki promised me that he will start to train me personally when I reach 10 years old. He's going to train me today. I'm sure of it. Unless I am not 10 years old. Yes, I will train you today. Maki answered plainly. Sakura just absorbed the information and tried not to show her sadness. Her uncle had always promised that he would train her, and now he was actually putting her crush first before her. Unfortunately for her, Maki noticed this and smiled. "Don't worry, Sakura. I will also be training you," Maki said. Sakura looked up at her uncle and he was smiling brightly at her. She smiled back. She should have trusted her uncle instead of having doubts. After all, her uncle always said that he loved her. What reason is there to doubt him? "Alright then, meet me at training ground number 2. I will meet you there, and if the two of you can complete my exercise at the time I expect, I will treat the two of you for some ramen." Naruto actually jumped and cheered, saying that he will do that for the sake of ramen. Sakura looked at him and shook her head. She wonders sometimes what was it that makes her so attracted to him. Maki disappeared in a puff of smoke and he was gone. Naruto took that as a start to get to the training ground. Grabbing Sakura by the wrist, the two of them started running towards the training ground. Naruto and Sakura reached the training ground in just 3 minutes, but running the whole way really took away their energy. Naruto placed two of his hands on his knees and gasping for air, while Sakura just sat down, breathing heavily. A shadow blocked the sun for them, and they looked at the figure that was blocking the sun. "Well, that was fast," Maki commented. Naruto just gave his foxy grin as a response. Maki then gave them a gesture to follow him, which they obeyed. He allowed the two kids to sit beneath a tree to protect them from the heat of the sun, while Maki is standing a few feet in front of them. He had his hands on his hips. After they finally were relaxed enough and got back their breath, Maki started. "Alright, today I will not be training you yet. I will ask the two of you to do a sort of training exercise that will allow me to determine what class you two belong." "Class? What do you mean? We never learned any of that in the academy," Sakura asked curiously. "Sorry," Maki apologized, "but these class are my own personal creation. You won't learn in from the academy. I find it easier to analyze my enemies or allies by classifying them into my class," Maki explained. Naruto and Sakura now understood and Maki continued, "As I was saying, I said that you will be doing an exercise that will allow me to know what class you two belong. So let's get ready." "What's the class?" Naruto asked their new sensei. "The two of you will be climbing a tree without using your hands," Maki explained the two young children. "Climb a tree? Without hands?" Naruto asked in disbelief. "That is impossible." Maki sighed. He knew that the two wouldn't believe him. Well, he can't really blame them since he too did not believe it when their sensei explained it to them. He gathered chakra to his feet until he got the desired amount and started to make his way to the tree that Naruto and Sakura are sitting under. Just like he said, he is now climbing the tree without using his feet. He is climbing the tree like as if he is walking on the ground. Naruto had his mouth open and flies could actually fly in while Sakura watched in awe. She is not as surprised as Naruto as she once saw her uncle climbing a wall. At least now she can find out how he does it. Maki climbed the tree until he reached a tree branch. He then sat on the tree branch and looked at the two kids. "Now, here is what you must do. You have to gather chakra to your feet to a specific amount. If you put too much chakra, you will be like jumping off the tree, and if you put too little chakra, you will from the tree." "Any questions?" Sakura raised her hand. Maki nodded to signify to allow her to ask her question. "So, just how does this help you determine our class?" Maki simply grinned, "Just do as I ask and I will know." The two academy students shrugged and started to gather chakra to their feet. Naruto let out a breath to try and calm himself and he ran towards the tree. He ran up the tree and he reached about halfway to the branch where Maki sat when he accidentally put too much chakra. Just like Maki said, Naruto burst off the tree and landed on the ground. Naruto scratched his head as he looked back at the tree. "It's tougher than I thought," Naruto thought to himself. Sakura is next to run up the tree. To everyone's surprise, she is able to run up the tree easily and even ran higher where Maki sat. She reached the highest branch and sat there. She cheered on her success while Naruto is fuming. So, Sakura has better chakra control than Naruto. Interesting. Naruto was okay, but he still needs to train more. "Okay, now for my next exercise to determine their class," Maki thought. "Alright." Maki said suddenly, catching the two students by surprise, "Now I want the two of you to continue doing this exercise. Even you Sakura, even though you are able to run to the top. I want you to repeat this exercise until you think you cannot go on," Maki explained. So, Maki sat on that tree branch, watching the two young academy students running up and down repeatedly. Naruto is slowly improving while Sakura is running up with ease. After about 20 minutes, Sakura could not go further. Maki already knew where she belonged, while Naruto continued on for another half an hour before he stopped. Maki now stood in front of them with his arms crossed on his chest, while the two academy students gathered back their energy. He is actually quite impressed at the two of them. They had completed his exercise quite fast. "I have determined your class," Maki started. Naruto and Sakura looked at Maki, waiting for him to continue. Naruto, I can see that your chakra control is average and you have high amount of chakra, given that you are still young. With your high amount of chakra, I can already tell what kind of techniques would be good for you. Your class is the offense and support. Naruto nodded after Maki informed him his class. Maki then turned to his niece. Sakura, you have the best chakra control I have ever seen. I have never seen a ninja with such perfect control and at your age especially. However, you have a low amount of chakra and we will have to work on that. Your class is either being a medic or being a genjutsu specialist. Sakura also nodded. Now, Maki said, Naruto. With your high amount of chakra, I will teach you your first technique tomorrow. And this technique is also one of my favorites. It is how I got my nickname. Maki formed a seal that is shaped like a T. Page Bunshin no Jutsu. There was a puff of smoke and then, an exact clone of Maki appeared next to him. Sakura and Naruto at first thought the technique is a simple clone, but they realized that the clone is solid. Naruto, this technique does not need much chakra control, just high amount of chakra. You can increase the amounts of clone depending on how much chakra you put in. I, too have a high amount of chakra. Frankly speaking, I have the highest amount of chakra in the whole of Konoha. Of course, the Hokage used to have more, but now I surpass him. Naruto nodded slowly. He is in awe. He can't believe he will be learning a technique that is Maki's favorite technique. He can't wait for tomorrow. He's probably going to have some trouble sleeping tonight. Maki watched as Naruto sat there trembling in excitement. Sakura, your chakra control allows you to actually be a specialist in genjutsu. Even though genjutsu is just supposed to attack the mind and put the enemy in a state on unconsciousness, your chakra control can actually allow you to probably drive the mind until he loses his sanity. It can even maybe kill. Or, you can be a medic. I would suggest this as Konoha lacks medics. You need excellent chakra control to be a medic, but for now, I will teach you what I know of genjutsu. I can give you scrolls on how to learn some basics in healing, but I have no knowledge of anything on that. But Maki-san, Sakura protested, couldn't you get one of the legendary Sannin? I heard one of them is a legend in healing. Maki smiled. Sakura actually knows one of the legendary Sannin is actually impressive. He looked at Naruto who showed confusion. Not many people know about them as they have never actually seen them. Some thinks of it as a bluff, but Maki knows the truth. It is true that Tsunade-sama is the best medic known in the ninja world, but unfortunately, I have no idea where she is. All three of the legendary Sannin has left Konoha. Sakura sighed in frustration. It seems that Sakura is more interested in being a medic. That is actually good if she can succeed. Konoha can probably train another legendary healer with Sakura's abilities. He has hoped that she will one day ascend to greatness with her, hopefully one day husband, Naruto. Maki himself has been trying to help them to reveal their feelings for each other, but it is easier said than done. Pushing away those thoughts, he clapped his hands to get the two children's attention. Alright, training for today is over. Now, how about that ramen? Maki asked and the two kids cheered, running for the exit and to get to Ichiraku as soon as possible. Maki followed the two from behind. In a distant land, a lone woman stood looking out of her window at the city. This is her home now. Her home of 10 years. Despite possessing such beauty, she is still single as her heart belongs to another, but that person is dead. She sighed heavily. She missed her homeland, but it brings in too much pain of him. There is a knock on the door and the door opened. A man, with a cloth covering his left eye entered the room. He had a rough voice and is one of the top jounin of the sand. Imura-san, we have to depart for our mission. The man said with a commanding voice. Understood, Baki-san. Imura heard the door close and sighed heavily. She gathered her weapons and got ready to leave her mission, but she still had trouble pushing off her thoughts of Konoha. She regretted leaving in a hurry with her family. She never got to say goodbye to her best friend. She knew that he liked her, but she never returned it as her heart belongs to him. She sometimes wondered if she should have given him a chance. He wasn't that bad looking, and he has actually beat her crush in the Chunin exam, even when her crush had more support. His talents for the shadow clone were what helped him win. She knew that he is now a powerful ninja and had no doubt that he is the ninja known as the replicator. She walked out of the room and muttered softly, I'm sorry, Maki-kun. It was night time and Konoha and Naruto prepared for sleep. He knew that Kakashi is currently watching him to protect him from the villagers. Despite hating Kakashi, he is grateful that the villagers no longer attack him. After brushing his teeth, he walked into his room and started to prepare for bed. He closed his bedroom door and looked out the window. He saw Kakashi on a roof. Kakashi nodded and created a shadow clone. He then left, leaving the clone to watch over him. Naruto pulled the blanket up to his chest and closed his eyes, dreaming of a certain pink-haired girl with green emerald eyes. Maki kissed Sakura on the forehead as she shifted in her sleep. Sakura thanked Maki when they reached home for training her. Maki really loved Sakura. She always thought of her loved ones no matter who they are. He left Sakura's room and walked into his own room. He's tired after that training with the kids, watching them running up a tree. He has to teach them their techniques tomorrow. He opened a drawer and took out a scroll. The scroll will teach Sakura some basic healing abilities, and he can teach Sakura certain Jinjutsu. The Jinjutsu is a B rank, and he has no doubt that Sakura will master it in no time. The shadow clone technique will be easy for Naruto with his high amount of chakra. He can probably create at least maybe even 50. And he's just 10 years old. He chuckled. He can't believe he has such high amount of chakra. He dropped on his bed with his face in the pillow. He turned to face the window and looked out the window. It is a full moon tonight. He sighed and closed his eyes, thinking of a certain brown-haired girl that has his heart. Amura-chan, Maki murmured before he fell asleep, clutching his heart. 2 years have passed since Maki has started training the container of the nine-tailed beast and his niece. The two ninjas have improved greatly, and Naruto can now create a large amount of shadow clones. Also, Sakura has also improved in both Jinjutsu and the arts of basic healing. She can now heal small wounds such as scratches, but she could not heal large wounds. Her Jinjutsu is at a very high level that it can really damage the mind. Maki was once able to dispel Sakura's Jinjutsu but proved difficult. She definitely has the talents for being a Jinjutsu specialist. As for Naruto, his chakra control is still average, but he has improved a little, at least. His chakra is still at large, and it is all thanks to the Kyuubi. Actually, he is now the second largest amount of chakra, almost close to Maki. His shadow clones, however, are not used to its full potential. Maki was already awake when the sun shined in the great city of Konoha. He knew today that his niece has the exam to become a genin. The exam should be easy since they will ask her to perform one of the 3 techniques that are basic. The Bunshin no Jutsu, the Kawarimi no Jutsu or the Henge no Jutsu. He changed his clothes and wore his ninja attire with his jounin vest covering his shirt. He took his pouch and filled it with 5 of his custom kunai, while the rest he left it in his drawer. He would normally take about 10 to 15 when he has missions, but when he doesn't, he takes 5, just in case a fight occurs. You never know when you have to fight, and he relies on his custom kunai to fight to his full potential. After all, that is how he gained his nickname. After he changed his outfit, he walked into the bathroom to do his business. After that, he brushed his teeth and washed his face to freshen himself and also to fix his hair. He looked at the mirror and stared at himself as the water flows down his face. He winked at himself, still looking good. He thought to himself. As he walked out of the bathroom, he could hear his sister-in-law's alarm clock ringing. So it means it is now 7 in the morning. Sakura still has about an hour to get to the academy before the exam starts. Perfect. He walked downstairs to fix his breakfast. He grabbed a cupcake he found in his fridge and started eating it. He heard the door of Sayuki open, heard her footsteps approaching Sakura's room. He decided to do some morning exercise to get himself ready for the day. He walked out of the kitchen and made his way to the backyard, doing a certain amount of push-ups and sit-ups. It took him 10 minutes to complete his task and then made his way back to the kitchen. He found Sakura pouring milk into a bowl filled with her favorite cereal. She still have not realized that Maki entered the kitchen. He walked behind her and took a seat next to her. "Good morning, Angel." He greeted her. Sakura's head shot up in surprise. "Oh, good morning Uncle Maki. I did not hear you." "Well, you have to be alert then, Sakura. A ninja always has to be prepared, you know." Sakura smiled as she placed the jar of milk back into the fridge. "Sorry, uncle. I'm just nervous of the exam today." He smiled. "Don't worry, Sakura. You'll do fine, I know you will make me proud. You wouldn't want to lose to Naruto, do you?" She laughed as she took her first spoon of the cereal. "Yeah, I guess not." They stayed in silence after that as Maki looked outside of the kitchen window, watching Sayuki hang their clothes out to dry. Sakura ate silently, and it took her about 5 minutes to finish eating. Maki looked at the clock on the wall, and it reads that it is 7:15. "You still have another 45 minutes to get ready, Sakura, and knowing you, I think you will need that amount of time to be on time to school," Maki said jokingly. Sakura is already on her way up but stopped when she heard that remark. "Uncle Maki. That's mean of you." She scolded him. The kitchen can be heard of Maki's laughter. He laughed so hard that he felt a tear sliding down his cheek. He wiped the tear away and took the bowl that Sakura used earlier and washed it for her. After that, he sat on a chair in the dining room, bored out of his mind. He has no mission today. Well, he just completed an A rank mission yesterday. He had to find and eliminate an assassin that has killed the leader of a village. The village lies close to the Sand's border, so he was quite surprised when he was the one that had to complete the mission, rather than the Sand. The Sand village is getting lazy. I can't believe we, their ally, are the one that has to do their jobs. Maki thought. He heard Sayuki opening the door from the backyard. She has just finished hanging all their wet clothes, so it is time for her next task. Maki knew what it is and took out his wallet. He heard Sayuki approaching him and he gave her the money. "So what are you going to buy today, if I may ask?" Maki said, putting his wallet back into his pocket. "I guess I could try and find some salmon for tonight. It is Sakura's favorite and we can use the salmon as a means of celebration." "Yeah. She will definitely pass the exam with flying colors, so she deserves it. Her chakra control is excellent in the exam." "I don't know what you're saying, but I trust you." She interrupted Maki, starting to make her way for the door. "I never understand all this ninja stuff anyway." Maki yelled as Sayuki closed the door. Maki looked at the clock and it says 7:35 in the morning. He sighed heavily. He just don't know how Sakura can spend so much time just getting ready. She is probably trying to dress to impress Naruto. "Well, that's cute." He chuckled softly. "What's so funny?" A female voice said and he turned to find Sakura wearing a red dress with a black tight pants. Her long pink hair is tied into a ponytail and he has to admit his niece indeed looked beautiful. Naruto is probably going to have a nosebleed. Maki thought evilly. "Nothing. I was just thinking of something funny that happened in a mission." Maki lied. "Oh, well, I'm going to be leaving now. I have to get to the academy for the exams," she stated, opening the front door. "Alright. Good luck in your exams, Sakura," Maki said. She turned to face her uncle and gave a heartwarming smile. "Thanks, Uncle Maki." She closed the door behind her and he heard her walking away. Maki raised himself from his seat and also walked out of his house. He locked the front door with his keys and after that, started walking on the busy road of Konoha. "What should I do today?" he thought. Most of his friends are away on missions. Naruto is also going to have his exam today. He's going to be bored today. He looked up and watched the clouds being blown by the wind. So peaceful. The weather is not so hot and the cooling wind makes it an even more perfect day. Maki then decided to train today. Practice and try come up with some new techniques. He is a fire element and all of his fire techniques can actually be compared to an experienced Uchiha. He has also developed an A-rank fire technique that can be used to kill a man with one hit. It consumes a large amount of chakra and is also a dangerous skill. He is the creator of that technique and has not taught that technique to anyone. The Rasengan is the second A-rank technique, while his one is number 4, beating Kakashi's lightning blade which is number 6. He created that technique about 5 years ago and ever since then, he only used it 3 times and that was because he could not beat his enemy. None has survived. Maki made his way to the training ground, hoping to find someone there to train with. Sakura is smiling brightly as she approached the academy. She can't wait to pass the exam and then finally become a ninja like her uncle. She can finally protect herself without Naruto or her uncle is there to always protect her. She and Naruto have been training with each other ever since he promised to train them 2 years ago. She has mastered the different type of genjutsus that her uncle gave her to learn. She can now use them with ease and once tried it on an unsuspecting villager for insulting Naruto. The man ran around Konoha screaming and had to be put down by Anbu and it took them a few seconds to realize that the man in under a genjutsu. She has also improved in her healing abilities. She just wished that the legendary Sannin, Tsunade is in Konoha. Still, even if she is here, will Tsunade accept her to be an apprentice? She saw her blonde-haired friend, her crush, leaning on the wall of the academy. He is most likely waiting for her. At least, that is what she thinks. After all, he only enters the academy with Sakura, never without her. Just thinking about that brought a smile on her face. She could feel butterflies in her stomach and she just wished that Naruto likes her. Naruto saw his pink-haired friend and walked towards her. He had his hands in his pockets to warm himself as today is unusually cold for him. He still wore the same outfit, a black shirt with blue pants, but he no longer wears the white cloak. He claims that it is too troublesome and it makes him feel hot. Hot as in the heat. "Good morning, Sakura-chan." Naruto greeted her when he reached her. She smiled, "Good morning, Naruto-kun. Come on, we should get ready for the exam." Naruto nodded and they walked into the academy. They are told to wait in the classroom until their instructor tells them what to do. Sakura also noticed that Naruto seemed to be depressed and she decided to try and cheer him up. "Come on, Naruto-kun, why the long face? You aren't worried about the exam, are you?" He gave her a soft smile and shook his head. "No, it's not that, Sakura-chan. I mean, once we pass the exam, we will be placed into 3-man teams and we might be separated." Sakura gasped, "How do you know?" "Maki told me that. He said that we will all be placed into teams with a Jounin sensei to guide us." Sakura didn't want to believe him at first, but if her uncle told him then it must be true. "I don't want to be separated from you. You're my best friend," she told him. Naruto felt a pang in his heart as she said he is her best friend. He wanted to be more than that, but he is able to hide his pain. "It's okay, Sakura-chan. We can still be friends, right?" They reached their classroom and opened the door. The whole class was filled with people talking, laughter and of course, fangirls arguing on their topic, Sasuke. The two students made their way to their seats. "Yeah, we will be friends. Forever." Sakura said softly. Naruto gave her his foxy grin as he allowed Sakura to take her seat first. Her heart melted watching his grin. He looked so cute. Sakura thought as she took her seat. "Yeah, and just look at that ass." I bet her inner squealed. "Would you stop with all that perverted thoughts?" Sakura scolded her inner. "I can't help it. Naruto is so perfect. He is nice to us, good looking, strong and..." Her inner continued her ranting while Sakura closed her ears shut with her hands. "I get it already. Can you go now? I have to concentrate on the exam here." Sakura stated, shutting the connection with her inner self. The noise level in the class continued to increase as the students all talked with each other at the same time. Of course, the one to cause the most sound is the constant arguments from the fangirls. Ino seems to be the loudest among them and succeeded in sitting next to the emotionless Ichigo. He ignored her and continued to brood. "I just don't know what they see in him," Sakura said, looking at the Ichigo. "Yeah," Naruto agreed, "I mean, he doesn't talk to anyone. All he does is sit there and broods. I don't know what is just so special about him." "I know. He is like the complete opposite of you," she whispered seductively in his ears. Naruto shivered. He started to blush madly and sweating. He used one of his hand to move the collar, trying to release his tension. "Damn it, why is Sakura doing this? I can't blow my cover if she sees me blush. If she knows I like her, she won't be my friend anymore," Naruto thought worriedly. Naruto is about to say something when the door opened and a man with purple hair and a Chunin vest entered the room, reading a thin white sheet of paper. Mizuki was reading the class list and found the name he wanted, Uzumaki Naruto. He plans to fail the kid. He is currently thinking how to do that when the kid is quite efficient in the 3 types of jutsu requested to make. He rubbed his chin until he noticed that all eyes were staring at him. He forgot he is in class. "Alright class. When I call your name, you are to walk to the next class where I and Iruka will ask you to perform one of the 3 techniques required for you to pass. If you succeed, you will be receiving this," he said, gesturing on his headband, "and you will then be considered as a ninja of Konoha. Is that understood?" "Hi." The whole class answered at the same time. "Alright, the first student is Aburam Shino," Mizuki said and he walked out of the class. The boy with a gray shirt started to make his way out of the class. He is considered to be one of the quiet students in the class. He has spiky black hair and wears black sunglasses, and his shirt's collar reaches up to his mouth, concealing most of his face. The whole way, students walked out of the class and never returned. They must have passed the exams because after their names are called out and a minute later, you can hear them cheering in excitement. That is a sure way to tell that they passed. Finally, Sakura also left Naruto's side as her name is called out. Naruto waved goodbye and she returned, saying she will wait for him outside the academy. Naruto could hear Sakura cheering. He smiled to himself as he knows that his crush passed the exam. Now he just waited in anticipation for his name to be called out. He will be one of the last students since his surname started with a U. He had to wait for a full half an hour when his name is finally called out. He punched the air to release his excitement and ran out of the class. He opened the door in the next class and saw Iruka and Mizuki seated behind a table. Naruto walked in front of them and waited for their orders. Iruka was busy reading sheets of paper while Mizuki glared at him, his eyes full of hate. Naruto ignored the glare and looked at the items on the table. They were Konoha headbands. He breathed out to try and calm himself. "Alright," Mizuki said, giving a wicked smile, "Uzumaki Naruto, you are supposed to create 3 complete bunchins for us." However, Mizuki let the sentence hang there and Iruka stopped what he is doing, giving Mizuki a confused look. Naruto also knew that Mizuki is up to something. He knew that Mizuki hated him just like the rest of the villagers. It seems that Mizuki will not want him to pass, but Naruto is filled with determination. "Since you have always said that you wanted to be the so-called Hokage, you will be taking a different test," Mizuki said, finishing his earlier sentence. "Mizuki-sensei, what are you talking about?" Iruka asked, scratching his head. "I don't recall having a different test." Mizuki gritted his teeth and turned to face the brown-haired man. "Iruka-sensei, Naruto here has claimed that he will become Hokage, and it is only fair that he has to prove to us that he will one day become Hokage." So he stopped for a while and turned back to Naruto. "I want Naruto to create 3 shadow replication." Iruka dropped his jaw in shock. "That is an A-level technique, surely Naruto, an academy student cannot put up with that." Hell, Iruka can barely do that technique and was about to protest when he realized that Naruto has a complete calm face. Naruto smirked, 3 shadow replications. That's easy. Naruto was glad that Maki taught him this technique. The moment he made his seal, Iruka and Mizuki said the same thing, impossible. Page Bunshin no Jutsu. 3 puffs of smoke were created and then 3 completed replications of Naruto were created. Mizuki could not believe his eyes. He did not even move an inch from shock while Iruka shakily got up from his seat and touched one of the clones. It was solid. These are real. Iruka said, impressed and shocked. They sure are, Iruka-sensei. Naruto replied happily, so, do I pass? Iruka had the biggest smile on his face. He removed his headband and tied it to Naruto's forehead, of course you pass. I don't know what Mizuki was thinking, but you definitely pass after showing us that technique. Incredible. Naruto touched the forehead that belonged to Iruka. His clones were dispelled and he bowed low, thanking Iruka and was about to exit the examination room when he heard a chair drop to the ground. He looked at the chair and realized that Mizuki is the cause of that from the result of getting off his chair in a hurry. That is impossible. How can a demon brat use that technique? It is an A-rank technique. Naruto shrugged, I guess I could do it. I know how you could do it. The Kyuubi inside of you must have helped you. He spat. Iruka was shocked on what Mizuki said. He actually said of the Kyuubi and to Naruto, the container of all people. It is highly forbidden, but Mizuki seems not to care. He turned to look at the blonde child at the door and he knew that he heard it. Oh no. Iruka thought. Inside of me? Naruto said in a soft voice, what are you talking about? You, Uzumaki Naruto, holds the nine-tailed beast. You are the cause of the village pain 12 years ago. Mizuki continued to rant until he fell down as he felt a sharp pain on his cheek. Iruka has punched Mizuki hard on the face. He was too late however. Naruto has heard the whole thing and Naruto, being a kid that is quite smart, finally fixed the puzzle together. So that is why the village hates me. I contain the cursed demon. I thought the fourth Hokage killed the Kyuubi, but it makes sense. The village hitting me for no apparent reason, calling me a demon. I am the container of that demon. Naruto thought. Iruka slowly walked towards Naruto, but Naruto ran off, trying to hold up the tears from spilling down his cheek. Iruka ran out the door and the last thing he saw is Naruto turning a corner. Naruto is too fast. Naruto. Iruka shouted, hoping that he will stop and let Iruka explain to him, but he did not. Sakura was sitting on a bench outside the school, waiting for Naruto to finish his exam. She knew that he will be one of the last students since his name starts with a U. She heard someone shouting Naruto's name. She now had a worried expression and raised herself off her seat. She walked to the entrance and found something that surprised her. Naruto's face is on the wall, his fist slamming on the wall and his shoulders trembling. He was crying and letting the tears pour down. She knew that this is not normal. She slowly approached her blonde-haired crush and tapped his shoulder. Naruto turned to face Sakura, his eyes still flowing with tears and already red from crying. Sakura gulped, Naruto, what's wrong? You didn't fail the exam, did you? Naruto gathered back his breath and shook his head, no, I passed. Sakura, please, I need to be alone now. I really need to have some time alone. Sakura backed away slowly as the blonde walked to a window and jumped out. She stood there, alone in the academy. She stood there as minutes passed by. She did not know what happened and hoped that Naruto will be okay. Dejectedly, she walked out of the academy and made her way to Naruto's favorite spot, hoping to see him there later and try to comfort him. Back at the academy, Anbu Forces has caught Mizuki and will be sentenced for revealing the truth when he is forbidden to do so. Maki watched on as his supposed friend is taken away by the Anbu. How could this go any worse? He walked back to the staff room only to find that he is the only teacher there. It was already 11 in the morning and since that the students have all already passed, there is no reason to be here anymore. The academy will be closed for several months until it opens again to new students. The students that still have years before they sit for the graduation exam will have the holiday. Iruka took a cup of coffee and started drinking it, trying to think properly. He still couldn't believe that Mizuki told Naruto the truth. He cursed loudly, throwing the cup on a wall, smashing loudly. Iruka grabbed the bridge of his nose, still trying to calm himself, but he just couldn't. He grabbed his things quickly so that he can make his way home. He switched off the lights of the staff room, walked out and closed the door behind him. So, what happened? A voice said, catching Iruka by surprise. He saw a man leaning against a wall, his arms crossed. He has a Jounin vest and his long dark pink hair hanging down by the shoulders. Iruka sighed heavily once more, knowing that Maki has a close relationship with Naruto. Come on, let's grab a seat and I will explain everything to you on what happened. Maki nodded and the two made their way to a classroom. Maki's eyes were wandering around the hallways as it brought back memories of his academy days. He remembered laughing as he ran past the hallway and also causing trouble with his older brother. Iruka unlocked the door for one of the classrooms and led Maki in. Iruka walked to the teacher's desk and pulled a chair. Maki walked to one of the students' table and grabbed a chair. He then pulled it next to Iruka and sat down, waiting for Iruka to start. It is a really long story, but to make it long story short, Naruto knows of the truth now. Iruka explained quickly. Maki blinked a couple of times to make sure he did not hear wrong. He looked at Iruka and he found nothing but seriousness. Maki sighed. So, what happened? Mizuki spilled it out after Naruto passed the graduation exam. Damn that Mizuki. Maki said, punching the teacher's desk and accidentally breaking it. Maki shook his fist a few times to release the pain. I tried to stop him and try explaining things to him, but he ran away before I could even tell him anything. I just hope he doesn't do anything drastic. Haruka said worriedly. He might if we don't find him. How? He could be anywhere in Konoha. Haruka said, turning to face his pink-haired friend. Maki smirked and did a seal. Haruka shivered as he looked at that seal. The seal that Mizuki requested Naruto use to pass the exam. Hajuo, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The whole room erupted with white smoke. After a couple of seconds, several clones of Maki appeared in the class. Haruka looked at the clones and is impressed that Maki can create this large amount of clones. He knows that Maki has the largest amount of chakra in the whole village, but he never thought his chakra has that much to create this amount. Maki felt Haruka's shock and chuckled, this is just a sixth of my chakra. Haruka's eyes went big, and before he knew it, all the clones started to make their way out of the classroom, all jumping out of the windows. Haruka just watch on until the whole room is empty and silent once again. Even the real Maki is gone with one objective. To find Naruto. Naruto sat on the Hokage monument, watching the whole village from here. He just never thought that he is the cause of the village's pain 12 years ago. He continued cursing at himself. He looked down at the Hokage tower. The place he always dreamed where he would one day work there as the Hokage of Konoha. He brought his knees to his chest and hugged it tightly, trying to fight the tears from falling again. He thought that his eyes are already dry from crying. He sniffed loudly and looked up at the sky. It was already high up and it means that it is noon now. His stomach is grumbling for food, but he stubbornly refused to listen to it. Here he is trying to drown his sorrow, and his stomach is asking for food. Then, he felt a presence behind him. He knew of this feeling. His chakra signature is no doubt him, and without even turning back, he asked, you knew about the thing in me, didn't you? The figure approached the 12-year-old, his long hair being blown back by the wind. It was like as if the wind is trying to hold him off from approaching Naruto. Yes, I knew. Maki responded. Before he knew it, Naruto ran to Maki and punched him hard in the gut. Maki gasped in pain and surprise, feeling the air leave him. Naruto felt all his anger in that punch when the unthinkable happened. Maki disappeared in a puff of smoke. Then, following the clone that disappeared in front of Naruto, around Konoha, Maki's clones were disappearing. There were about 40 of them, all disappearing upon finding out where Naruto is. Naruto walked back to sit at where he was sitting earlier, waiting for the real one to approach. He felt Maki approaching him from under. He blinked in confusion. How could Maki be approaching from below? Naruto felt that he is coming directly below him, and he moved out of the way just on time as Maki emerged from the ground. Maki climbed out of the dirty ground and saw Naruto looking at him, confused. Hi, Naruto. Maki said, smiling. What do you want? Naruto asked plainly. Maki dusted off the dirt and sighed, look, Naruto. I can explain why I didn't tell you about the thing inside of you. You know that I love you and I wouldn't have hurt you. Naruto crossed his arms on his chest, I'm waiting. Well, Maki scratched his head, it was an order by the Hokage that we do not tell you of the thing inside of you. It was to protect you. We fear that the Kyuubi might try and control you, because since the villagers attack you, we were afraid that you might be consumed in hate and then turn to the Kyuubi for help. Naruto stayed silent, waiting for more. Maki continued, that is the reason why I and Kakashi are assigned to watch over you. I apologize that in the past I failed you sometimes because I was away on a mission so I couldn't look over you. But Naruto, do not let this incident turn away from your friends. I know what you are thinking. You are thinking that since the villagers want you dead, you think that you should kill yourself, right? Naruto could not hide the shock on his face. He indeed planned his death by jumping off the Hokage monument. Was he that easy to read? His anger was now replaced by curiosity, watching Maki intently. I know of this Naruto, because I too went through something similar, but not because I possess a demon inside of me. I had this feeling when someone precious to me left the village and I felt that I no longer have any reason to live. But, I realized that there are others that will be devastated by my death. Maki placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder, Naruto, if you kill yourself, do you think Sakura will be happy? She will no longer be the happy girl that you love. She will be crying for weeks and might even die. Naruto now blushed, how do you know? Maki smirked, I am her uncle, and I can see how you look at her Naruto. I know it is not just to crush Naruto. You love her and I don't expect anyone else to give her that love. But Naruto looked up at Maki and he continued, I am not saying that you have to confess of your feelings in a rush. But, don't take your time. You never know when she might find another that captures her heart. With that, Maki disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto just stood there, not moving an inch. Today was full of surprises. First, he finds out why everybody in this village hates him, and now, one of his close friends knew his feelings for Sakura. After 5 minutes of standing there, he started to make his way to a place to satisfy his hunger, Ichiraku Ramen. Somewhere, in a village that lies close to the Sand Village's border, a woman was eating her lunch. She is a Jounin from the Sand Village and was assigned to eliminate an assassin that killed the village's leader, but she found out that someone has taken care of her target. What really pissed her off is that first, she came here for no reason and second, it was a Konoha shinobi that did the task. Of course, they are allies with the Leaf Village, but that doesn't mean she enjoys coming all the way on a 2-day trip only to realize that she is not needed there. She continued eating when she heard a couple of young teenagers giggle loudly and turned to look at the source of the giggles. There were 3 women around the age of 20 to 25. They were beautiful, no doubt. The Sand Village ninja wondered what they were talking about and decided to listen. At least the assassin is taken care of. A blonde woman said. I know, and have you heard of the rumors? A woman with black hair tied in pigtails said. What rumors? The blonde woman asked, turning to face her companion. If you're talking about the rumors that it is a Konoha ninja that did the job, then you're wasting your breath. We already know of this. The third woman said, who is also a blonde, but she allowed her hair to be loose. No, the black-haired said, shaking her head, rumors are that it is the replicator of Konoha that completed the task, and the woman that saw the whole thing said that he is gorgeous. The replicator? The 2 women gasped in shock. The 2 blondes leaned forward, what other details do you have? Well, the black woman started telling the gossip, the woman said that he is extremely handsome, but he was weird. He had dark pink hair, but it somehow fits him. She also got one of his weapons that was stuck into a tree. The blonde that let her hair loose then asked, weapon? If he is the replicator, it means that is his custom kunai. Oh my god, I have to see it, feel it. The 3 women squealed once again, bringing in headaches to Himura who was listening to the whole thing. She stopped listening and started to eat again. However, she could eat. She was thinking about him. Her suspicions were correct. The Konoha ninja that is known as the replicator is indeed her longtime friend. She smirked. She never thought that loser is capable. She will have to report this to the Kazekage. The moon is now shining brightly on the great village of Konoha. An orphan is now eating his dinner, 2 cups of instant ramen and watching the TV. He was not really paying attention to the show however. He was thinking on what Maki told him earlier. That he was instructed by the Hokage not to tell him about the Kyuubi. He forgave him about that, but it is about what he said about Sakura. Should he really confess his feelings soon? It is true that now they are ninjas, they will be putting their lives at risk and they will be put into different teams tomorrow. However, he also thought that his confession might end the relationship between him and Sakura. What if Sakura does not want that kind of relationship and stops being his friend? Naruto sighed heavily at the thought as he finished his dinner. Tossing the ramen cups into the dustbin, he started to prepare himself for bed. He walked into his room and switched on his air conditioning. He pulled the blankets up to his chest and closed his eyes, and finally making his decision. He will not tell Sakura of his feelings yet, but he will at least ask for forgiveness for leaving her so suddenly earlier today. Maki sighed heavily as he plopped down on his bed. He already told his niece on that what Naruto did today was something that probably stressed him out and did not want Sakura to bear his burden. She nodded in understanding. He had no doubt that she will forgive him. After all, he loves her deeply. The only question is just when he confesses his feelings for her. He will try with all his strength to try and pair them up. Or at least, make them realize their love for each other. Maki closed his eyes and slept on his right side, hoping that at least their relationship will not be like his and Himura. The sun takes its place once again to give life to the great city of Konoha. The sun allows the crops to grow and lets the inhabitants to do their daily work. In an apartment, a 12-year-old orphan wakes up from his slumber at the sound of his alarm clock. He showed his frustration by picking up the said device and throwing it to the wall, smashing it to pieces. Naruto looked at his once clock. He did not really care. The clock woke him up just when he was getting to a good part in his dreams where he and Sakura were married and was just about to kiss when the alarm clock had to disturb him. He scratched his head and realized that he has about an hour to get ready for school. Well, not really school, but to get to the academy and see which team he will be assigned to. He does not care who his teammates are, but he prayed that Sakura will at least be his teammate. He took off his pajamas and made his way to the bathroom to have a good early bath. He enjoyed the feeling of the water washing his body and soon started to wash himself clean. After several minutes of scrubbing here and there, he switched off the water and wrapped a blue towel around his waist. He made his way to the sink to brush his teeth. After he brushed his teeth, he looked at himself in the mirror. His blonde hair has really grown long throughout the years and thick too. He is quite surprised that he looked almost like the 4th Hokage. After making sure that his face is clean to look at, he walked back into the bedroom to wear his usual attire. He had several of the same black shirt and blue pants. It is pretty comfortable and Sakura liked him to wear this, so why not? The day is a special day, so he decided not to eat his usual instant ramen for a breakfast, which even caught himself surprised. He decided to at least try and eat something healthy. He opened his fridge and saw a couple of eggs. He took one egg and a packet of milk and brought the two items out and placed it on the table. He looked at the clock above him and he still has about 40 minutes before 8. He started to cook the egg the best way he can and it took him a few minutes to do so. He placed the egg on a plate and poured the milk in a small glass and started to eat his breakfast. It wasn't that bad for a person to cook egg for the first time in his life. And again, cooking egg isn't really anything to be proud of. He washed the plates after he finished eating. He walked back into his room for one more important item. He found it on top of the table next to his bed. He picked up his headband and tied it to his forehead. He looked at himself in the mirror in the toilet and nodded to himself. "I look pretty good," Naruto thought to himself. Satisfied, he grabbed his house keys, walked out of his apartment, locked it, and started to make his way to the academy. The villagers of course noticed that he now has a headband on his village and they surprisingly do not whisper to each other as much. They either got tired of it or probably thought that they should respect a defender to their home. While Naruto is walking to the academy, he just can't believe what Maki told him yesterday. That he is actually the uncle of his crush, Sakura. To make it worse, he knows about the crush and actually encourages him to confess his love to her. He will not do that today, perhaps just in the near future. He spotted the academy and found that as usual, Sakura has not yet arrived. He found an empty bench and took a seat, humming a tune while he waited for his pink-haired friend. In the Haruno household, Maki is busy getting ready for his day. He knows that his niece will be picked into teams today. He is also one of the jounin selected to be a leader of one of the teams. Sadly, he heard from Sakura yesterday that Naruto and her did well on the test and that is something that will separate them. Since the two did okay, there is a high chance that they will be put into different teams to balance a team. They cannot have a team where the members are all good. Sakura and Naruto will most likely be put into different teams to help the weak ones, and Maki could find no student that is very weak. All of the students did fairly well. After tying his headband to his forehead and picking his placing at least 5 of his custom kunais in his back pouch, he made his way down to eat breakfast. It is already 7:30 in the morning and he has to report to the Hokage's office in 15 minutes. Well, actually all the jounins that are assigned to a team have to be in the Hokage's office in 15 minutes. He found his niece downstairs eating her breakfast. She wore the same outfit like yesterday, the only difference is that she has her headband on her head, allowing the bangs of her hair to fall. She did not tie her hair today, and Maki is surprised that her hair is almost down to her hip. Sakura turned to face her uncle and gave him a smile, and then turned back to finish her breakfast. Maki sat on the dining table and realized that a bowl of porridge has already been served for him. He picked up his spoon and started to eat his breakfast. Sakura finished just a few seconds after Maki sat down and walked back upstairs to get ready. Of course, in Maki's eyes, she is already ready. She has a headband, so what else does she need? Sakura came down a minute later with no difference in her attire. The curiosity got the best of Maki and he asked, "I don't see any difference in your outfit. What did you go back up for?" "I just straightened my hair." "A girl has to look good, Uncle Maki," Sakura explained, making her way for the door. "Really?" Maki asked, placing his bowl in the sink, "Are you trying to look good for someone?" He received no answer and could just hear the door close in haste. He chuckled softly and realized he is also running late. He took out his wallet and placed a certain amount of money on the dining table for Sayuki to use for her grocery shopping. He then walked out of the front door. He has about 5 minutes to get to the Hokage's office and he won't get there on time, even if he used the rooftops. He sighed and made a seal and soon disappeared in a puff of smoke. He appeared right in front of the Hokage tower and started to make his way to his destination. Uzumaki Naruto is already restless. He has been sitting on the bench for about 20 minutes doing nothing but humming a tune which he grew bored of. He saw a couple of his friends walk by and they had small talk before they entered the academy. Nara Shikamaru's conversation was the one that made him nervous. Shikamaru seems to know about his crush on Sakura. Although he stated that a few of his friends found them to be suspicious, he knows of Naruto's true feelings. When asked why he doesn't tell anyone, Shikamaru simply states that it is too troublesome. Typical Shikamaru. It is already 7:45 in the morning and Naruto is just about to give up waiting when he spotted Sakura from the distance. She waved happily when she saw him and he just couldn't help but wave back and grow a smile on his face. "Good morning, Sakura-chan." Naruto greeted her when she neared him. She simply nodded, "Well, today is the day." "Yeah. I just hope I will be on the same team as Sakura-chan." Sakura had to agree, "Yeah. It will be boring without Naruto-kun. You always were able to make me laugh, even at least once when we are together." The two made their way into the academy laughing when Naruto brought out a question he has been meaning to ask. "Sakura-chan, is it true that Maki is your uncle?" Sakura immediately became nervous. Her uncle has told her countless of times to not tell him anything, but it seems that Naruto has already been informed about this. She turned to face him. "What makes you think that?" Naruto turned serious. "Sakura-chan, Maki told me yesterday that he is your uncle, so don't play games with me. Is it a yes or a no?" Sakura sighed in relief. If her uncle was the one that told her, then it means she has no problem denying it. "Yeah, he is. Why didn't you tell me about this earlier?" Naruto asked, looking deep into her emerald eyes. She shrugged. "He is the one that told me not to tell you." Naruto looked at her for a couple of seconds and then turned back to look where they are going. The two continued on walking in silence. When they reached their classroom, they found the students to be all surprisingly quiet. Not a single sound is heard. Naruto and Sakura looked at each other and they just shrugged at the weird atmosphere. They took their usual sits and waited for Iruka to tell them what to do, waiting in anticipation. Maki was leaning lazily on a wall in the Hokage's room. He knew most of the Jounins present and is surprised that even the famed copy ninja is present. Of course, this is not his first time. Kakashi is said to have never passed a team due to his difficult test. Maki's test is far easier compared to the one of Kakashi. Maki has been selected to be a Jounin leader for a bunch of genin a few years back and they are all now Chuninins, so he no longer has to be with them. Maki did not bother to listen to the Hokage for the first few minutes, as the Hokage has to introduce to the new Jounins what is expected of them. He could even see Kakashi is not paying attention, reading his perverted book. The only reason why Maki came is that he wants to know what teams Naruto and Sakura are. He wants them to be together, though he doubt that is possible, but it can't hurt to try. He remembered when he was picked to be in a team exactly 14 years ago. He chuckled softly when he remembered how he wanted to be in the same team with Himura but was not chosen. He was close but not close enough. Flashback. The whole class were listening intently as their teacher took out a sheet of paper to read to the class who their teammates will be. Maki, of course, did not care who his sensei will be or who his teammates are, as long as one of them is Himura-chan. He took a quick glance at his brown-haired crush. She, as usual, is sitting next to the so-called genius of the class, Naruto. He has black hair and his hair covers his left eye. He looks like a freaking emo. He wears a simple brown shirt and a black jacket to cover it and strangely for a ninja, dark blue jeans. Why would he wear jeans? It is difficult to move around for something like that, but that is not his problem, so he didn't care. Now, Team 4 will be comprised of Haruno Maki. His teacher called. The mention of his name put him to full attention. He is currently praying silently that Himura's name will be mentioned. His teacher continued. "Naga Megumi and Akimichi Oda. You will report to your Jounin sensei at training ground number 4. His two new teammates nodded while Maki slumped in his desk. Now he can never be with her. He looked at her and to his surprise, she is looking at him. Of course, they are friends indeed, but he wants to be more than that. Himura simply smiled at him and that caused his heart to hurt more to not be with her in the same team. Team will be Naruto, Hajime Himura and Abura Makamatsu. You are to report to your Jounin sensei at training ground number 5. Maki saw the look of Himura's face when she is paired up with the genius. His day could not get any worse. Well, that doesn't mean he can't be friends with her. He can still try to win her affections, though his chances are low since she will be with her crush. And he has heard that Kawada has interests in her. He turned to look at the two of them once more and he can already see her giggling as Kawada whispers something in her ear. He clenched his fists in anger but calmed himself after he told himself that she does not belong to him. He will try and win her heart. That's what he will do. End of flashback. Maki frowned on that memory. The only thing he ever achieved with her is just being her best friend and that is just not good enough. He wanted to be more, but the moment he heard that the two were dating, his heart was crushed. He was lucky that his friend, Megumi, was there for him and told him that committing suicide is never the answer. He pushed all those thoughts away and decided to pay attention in the Hokage's room. After all, the Hokage is ending his boring speech soon, so he will be informing them of their students in probably a minute. He looked around the Hokage's room to pass the time and never realized that the room is full of pictures on Konoha's memorable moments, like when the first Hokage defeated Uchiha Madara at the Valley of the End. He was always busy just listening to the mission's details that he never paid any attention to the room's surroundings. He stopped admiring the room when the Hokage finally ended his boring speech and took out a piece of white paper, preparing to read the list of genin names. He just waited to hear his name and after a couple of minutes, his name is reached. Team 7's leader will be of Haruno Maki. The students under you are Uzumaki Naruto, the Hokage said. Maki heard his first student's name and that already brought in hope for him. He waited for the Hokage to continue. Uchiha Sasuke and Yamanaka Ino. Maki cursed loudly and all of the Jounins present turned to face him. He just realized he said that aloud and looked at everyone. He could feel the heat on his face and scratched the back of his head nervously. He just muttered, sorry. The Hokage continued on reading out the names, but Maki did not listen anymore. He is already thinking to try and convince the Hokage to change his mind. He wants the best for Naruto and Sakura. He didn't want the two of them to be just like him. The only difference is that the two likes each other. "Hi, you alright?" He heard a voice ask him. He turned to face the masked ninja and he just sighed, "I just wanted Sakura and Naruto to be under my leadership." He whispered to Kakashi. Kakashi has his book covering his face to avoid people thinking that he is talking. "Well, you are still training them personally, right? You still have the two of them." "That is true, but I also wanted them to be on the same team." Maki replied. "You can't have them all, Maki. You should know that." Kakashi stated out. "I know. By the way, any students under you this time have any interests?" Maki asked, hoping to chance the subject. Kakashi shook his head behind his orange book. "Nope. They will most likely fail this test, although I plan to teach one of your students, the Uchiha kid." Maki looked at him, giving him a confused look. "Why?" Kakashi shrugged. "Well, he needs someone to teach him the use of the Sharingan, and I am the only person in the whole village of Konoha that has the knowledge to do so." Maki nodded. "You will have to ask the Hokage for permission." "You don't have to ask me, I will definitely agree. I mean, I have no knowledge of the Sharingan anyway, and Sasuke will have to learn how to use it in the future." Kakashi thanked Maki and walked back to his original position. The Hokage spent another 5 minutes telling the Jounins who their students are before they are finally finished. "Now," the Hokage said after finish reading the list, "are there any further questions?" Silence greeted the Hokage. The Hokage took a puff of smoke from his pipe and then nodded. "Then you are all dismissed." All of the Jounins nodded and started to make their exit. Of course, they would have actually just disappeared out of the office by using that technique, but there will be too many white smoke, so they all used the door. The Hokage had a smile on his face as the Jounins used the door. He was after all beginning to wonder what the use of the door is if they don't use it anyway. The only ones left in the Hokage's office is Maki and Kakashi. The Hokage glared at the two Jounins as they walked up front, standing next to each other and standing nearer to the Hokage's table. The Hokage lit up a match and relit his pipe. "So, what is it that I can help the two of you with?" the Hokage asked, not looking at them. Kakashi took a step forward. "If I may speak first, Hokage." Sarutobi nodded and Kakashi continued, "I am just wondering if I can personally train Uchiha Sasuke from today. I mean, I will also someday have to teach him how to use the Sharingan properly, so I thought why not start now." The Hokage heard the request and started to think. It makes sense since Sasuke has no one else to turn to in the teachings of the Sharingan. Sarutobi looked at the silver-haired Jounin and nodded. Kakashi bowed, turned to face Maki and smiled. Maki nodded and Kakashi walked out of the office. Sarutobi then put his attention to the last Jounin left in the office. Maki took a step closer. "Hokage-sama, I am hoping to request that the students Uzumaki Naruto and Haruno Sakura be placed in the same team." Sarutobi raised one of his eyebrows as he released a puff of black smoke from his mouth. "And what reasons can you provide for that?" "Naruto and Sakura did well in the exam, and you know very well that the reason why we put them in different teams. We are trying to balance the team and from what the list stated, these are the best we can do." Maki bowed low. "I understand that, Hokage-sama. It's just that I thought it would be better that they be put in the same team since I have personally trained the two of them and they work best together." Sarutobi shifted in his seat. "That is actually true. However, if we did put the two of them together, your team will be too powerful and one of the team will be too weak. We cannot have that." Before Maki could respond, Sarutobi continued, "I know that you have already attached a kind of bond with those two and you should be glad that the two of them are still training under you. The only difference now is that they will be separated and in different teams, but when they are not in missions, you can train them in their free time." Maki is about to protest, but he thought about the logic that the Hokage said. He could not win this and he should be glad that the two will still be together when they train with him. They just won't be able to spend as much as time with each other. Maki raised himself and thanked the Hokage for his time and disappeared from the Hokage's room, leaving the old man to return to his stack of papers. "This is so boring," Naruto whined as Iruka is still talking about how he is proud that all of his students passed. "Don't worry, you live," Sakura assured jokingly. "And now, you are now considered to be ninjas of Konoha. There will come a time when you have to put your life on the line, but know that you are doing something good for your homeland. As you progress in your ninja careers, it will be extremely difficult for you, but as long as you hold the will of fire, nothing can stop you," Iruka said, finishing his speech. Deep down, he felt bad giving so much to these young children, only for them to find out that they still have to sit for the real genin test. He can already tell that one team will be kicked out if the copy ninja has a team under him. Suddenly, an Anbu appeared next to Iruka in a kneeling position. He had his head low and gave Iruka a sheet of paper. Iruka thanked the Anbu, and he disappeared in a puff of smoke, not even leaving a single trace that he was there. Iruka read the paper and frowned. He can see the name Hada Kakashi on Team 6, but luckily for him that Naruto's name isn't on that team. Haruka cleared his throat loudly so he can get the students' attention. Alright, I will now deploy all of you into a team. A team will be comprised of 3 members, and you will be provided with a jounin to guide you. I will not be repeating this, so you had better listen carefully. All of the students immediately stopped their conversation or whatever it was that they were doing. Haruka then started reading the names and the jounins that they are under. Upon calling the first 3 names for Team 1, the jounin leader of Team 1 entered the classroom and called her students out of the class. This continued on while Naruto and Sakura waited for their names to be called. One of the funny thing is that the jounin of Team 6 never appeared when Haruka called his name. Haruka expected this and continued on reading the paper. Now, Team 7 will be comprised of Uchiha Sasuke, Uzumaki Naruto and Naruto slapped his forehead upon hearing the name of Sasuke. Of all the people that he has at least some kind of friendly relationship, it has to be Sasuke, who never talks to anyone in class. As for Sakura, she is listening intently and prayed that it is her name that is called. And Yamanaka Ino. Your jounin leader is Haruno Maki. Ino squealed happily upon hearing her name called. The only reason she is happy is that she is teamed up with Sasuke. She is okay with Naruto, but she is now so much happy that Sasuke is with her. Naruto and Sakura are staring at each other. Sakura is depressed at first, she cannot be teamed with Naruto, and now, it is her uncle that is their leader. Their team is going to be so much fun. She sighed. Damn it, why can't I be with Naruto-kun? Sakura thought sadly. Yeah, that Ino pig doesn't deserve to be on that team. It should be our rightful place. Inner Sakura yelled. Well, this is what we get for passing the exam with flying colors. Sakura thought sadly. Naruto is also pissed as hell. He wanted to be with Sakura and now he has to not only put with Sasuke but also one of the loudest fangirl of Sasuke, Ino. The only reason why he didn't really like the blonde girl is that she also constantly pick fights with Sakura because of her forehead. He hated that. Haruka waited for Maki to enter, but he did not show up. Haruka scratched his head, wondering where the pink-haired ninja is. After waiting for half a minute, he continued on reading the list. Teammate will be comprised of Inyazuka Kiba, Aburam Shino and Hyuga Hinata. Your jounin sensei is Yuhi Kurenai. Haruka announced. Unlike Team 6 or Team 7, the door opened and a woman with long black hair entered the class. She is wearing some red outfit with full of white bandages of some sort. She ordered her team members to follow her, and the 3 ninjas followed. Haruka called for Team 9 and their jounin and they also left. Naruto wondered where the hell Maki is. He wanted to start training. And last but not least, Team 10 will be comprised of Nara Shikamaru, Akimichi Chouji and Haruno Sakura. Your jounin leader is Saratobi Asuma. Haruka announced, and the door opened to reveal a man with black hair and a black goatee, just like the Hokage. He is wearing a jounin vest and a piece of cigarette in his mouth with his hands in his pocket. Alright, whoever that is under me, follow me. We are going somewhere to eat and introduce ourselves. Asuma ordered and the 2 males made their way for the door, Shikamaru rubbing his eyes to wake him up from his sleep. Sakura started to climb out of her seat. Naruto grabbed her wrist and gave a smile, have fun with your new team Sakura-chan. I'll see you later. Sakura looked into his ocean blue eyes and didn't want to lose the eye contact, but she realized she is still in class and shook her head. Yeah, I'll see you later. She answered softly and quickly made her way out of the class, following her 2 teammates. Naruto decided to try and sleep until Maki arrives. He is rarely late for anything. Haruka also excused himself out of the class, and now, only Team 6 and Team 7 are left in the class. Sasuke, as usual, is still brooding while Ino tries to start a conversation with him, but getting nothing more than a grunt. Naruto almost drifted to sleep when he felt someone sitting next to him. He lazily opened one of his eyes and realized it is Ino. Hi Naruto. She said cheerfully. Hi Ino. What are you doing here? He asked lazily. Nothing. I just thought I could talk to one of my teammates. Well, Naruto raised his head from the table and sat back properly on his chair. I guess we have to be closer now that we are a team. Ino nodded, pulling away a strand of hair from her eyes. So, Naruto, what do you plan on doing as a ninja? What do you mean? He asked her. Well, like me for example, I have to be a ninja because I am the next heir for the Yamanaka clan. I actually never wanted to be a ninja, but here I am now to make my dad proud and I don't plan on disappointing him. Naruto nodded, rubbing his chin. Well, I guess I want to be acknowledged by the villagers here. And the best way to do that is to become the Hokage so that I can protect all of them. So, I guess I became a ninja to become the Hokage, I guess. Wow, Ino said, impressed, that is a very high dream. Naruto gave her his grin, and they stopped their conversation when the door opened and a man with dark pink hair entered the class. For the first time since Naruto knew Maki, Maki has a stern look on his face. He did not smile when he looked at Naruto and the other students in the class. He has his hands on his hips. Whoever that is under me, Team 7, get out of this class and meet me outside of the main entrance of the academy. He barked with authority. With that, he left. Naruto gulped loudly and Ino did not move from the shock of their new jounin. The way he ordered them reminds her of her dad's friend, Ibiki. Sasuke is a little surprised, but he did not show it. He just grunted and got out of his seat and has his hands in his pockets as he makes his way out of the class. Hum on losers before he gets pissed off. Sasuke said without looking at his two teammates. The two blondes scrambled out of their seats and walked behind the Uchiha. Ino wanted to talk with him again, but she thought it over. Now is not the time. They have to see what their new jounin wants. Maki waited patiently outside of the main entrance of the school. He leaned on the wall next to the entrance of the academy, his face is low, so it is well hidden, and he has his arms crossed. He almost laughed at Naruto's shocked face for his new attitude. He has to act tough to show his new students that he is in command, and they are to not complain. The only person who will know that he is acting all this out is probably Naruto. As he waited for them, he just wished that Sakura is under him. He saw Sakura walking to a barbecue restaurant with Asuma and two males as he made his way to the academy. At least she has a reliable jounin to guide her. Maki thought. Maki's head shot up upon hearing footsteps nearing the entrance of the academy from the inside. A few seconds later, a boy with black hair wearing a blue shirt and white shorts with his hands in his pockets came out first. Sasuke. He is then followed by Naruto and another girl that Maki recognizes as the daughter of the head of the Yamanaka clan, Yamanaka Ino. Maki used his head to tell them to sit on the bench in front of him, and the three of them followed his orders, all sitting on the bench which perfectly fits three people. Sasuke sat in the middle, Ino on his left and Naruto on his right. Maki walked in front of them and has a bored face, his hands on his hips. Alright, he said lazily, I am your jounin leader, and we are Team 7. My name is Haruno Maki and has served as a ninja of Konoha for about 14 years. Now, why don't you start introducing yourselves by telling me your name and why you chose to become a ninja? Naruto and Ino looked at each other and then at Sasuke, deciding who should introduce first. Naruto using body language tells her to go first and she faces Maki, who looks at her and nods, telling her to start. My name is Yamanaka Ino and I chose to become a ninja is to make my dad proud I guess, since I will have to take over the clan when my father retires. So if your father is not the head leader, you wouldn't have become a ninja? Maki asked. Ino now got nervous, trying to figure out to tell the truth or come up with a lie. She looks at Maki and then decided, well, yeah. I have more interests in creating herbs. I have interests in flowers and plants so I know the herbs. She says, which is the truth. Alright, that's all I need to know. Maki says and then faces the Uchiha and he just stares back. Your turn, kid. Maki tells Sasuke. My name is Uchiha Sasuke and chose to become a ninja is to make my clan proud and to kill a certain man. Sasuke says with no emotion in his voice. Maki expected this. After all, it is his own brother that eliminated the clan, so he expected Sasuke to dream of this. He is going to have to work hard to try and show that he should not be an avenger. Perhaps Kakashi can also help me with this. Maki thought to himself. Maki turns to face the blonde boy and Naruto fixes his headband and starts. The name is Uzumaki Naruto and I chose to be a ninja is to gain acknowledgement by the villagers. And the best way to do that, Naruto gets up from his chair and points to the Hokage monuments, is to become Hokage. That is my reason. Maki nodded his head. He already knows of his dream so that is nothing new. He gestures for Naruto to sit down and when he did, he decided to give them the news. He clears his throat and looks at all three of them. Now that I know what I need to know, I need to give you the real genin exam to see if you have what it takes to be considered as a ninja of Konoha. Ino raises her hand and Maki nods his head. What do you mean real genin exam, sensei? Ino asks. I mean that this will be the real exam to determine you have what it takes to become a ninja. Before you ask, I will tell you now. The exam that you passed in the academy is just to test and see if all of you have what it takes to become a ninja. It is also just to determine the team placement. And I wouldn't worry too much, Yamanaka. In the history of Konoha, not a single student that comes from a ninja clan has ever failed this test. Unless you will be the first to fail with the Uchiha over here. He points at Sasuke. Ino gulped loudly and looked at her two teammates. Great, now there is pressure on my shoulders. She thought worriedly. Hi, sensei, Naruto said suddenly, what happens if we fail the test? Maki chuckled, if you fail, you will be sent back to the academy to restart everything. And trust me, everything means back from year 1. You will have to spend another 7 years in the academy and trust me, those that got sent back became normal civilians of Konoha. Naruto's jaw dropped. He started sweating and clenched his fists. He knew that he can't fail this test. What has he been training with Sakura-chan and Maki here for 2 years for then? No, he must pass. He starts to calm himself down and turns to face Sasuke. Sasuke did not react to the test. But in the inside, he too is scared. Even though Maki assured that a ninja that belongs to a clan never fails does not mean it is a 100% guarantee that he will pass. It's okay. I have Naruto here who is an equal here. The only problem here is Ino. But what is the test? Sasuke thought. I will also tell you this, Maki said, rubbing his nose from itchiness, this exam has a 66% chance of failure. You now have the idea on how difficult this exam is, so you should prepare yourself. But on the bright side, you are lucky that you are not under the team of Kakashi. Why? Naruto and Ino asks at the same time. Let's just say that every year for the past 10 years, he has been elected to become a Jounin sensei, and to this day, none has passed his test. Naruto raises his hand, and Maki allows him to ask his question. So sensei, when you said his test, does that mean that the exam is different depending on the Jounin leader? Naruto asks. Maki has an impressed look on his face. He knew that Naruto has good observational skill, but he proves himself once again. Ino also looked at Naruto, impressed, but Sasuke is still emotionless. That is correct, Maki answers, each Jounin can test our team with our own kind of tests. The three of them listened in silence. The only sound that can be heard is the breeze that blew past them. Maki waited for another 15 seconds for them to ask, but the three of them did not, so Maki took that as the end of the conversation. Okay then, with no further questions, I want all three of you to meet me tomorrow morning for the test. I want you to be at training ground number 7 at 9 in the morning. And do not eat anything for breakfast. Maki informs them and dismisses them. The three students start to make their way to their respective homes when a voice is heard. Naruto. Get back here. I am not finished with you. Maki says loudly in a stern voice. Maki stopped in his tracks, and by the voice, he can tell that he is not happy. Naruto reluctantly makes his way back to Maki. Maki gestures for Naruto to sit on the bench where the team sat earlier. He sat in the center of the bench and looks at Maki. Maki narrows his eyes on Naruto, which made him even more nervous. Maki could not hold the laughter now and burst out laughing, shaking his head. Naruto now grew even more confused. Naruto, you should have seen your face when I entered the class earlier. And what makes it even more funny is the expression on your face you just had a few seconds ago. It's hilarious. Naruto's sweat dropped and waited for Maki to stop laughing, which lasted about 10 seconds and took him another 5 seconds to fix his long pink hair. The pink hair reminds him of his crush and how he already missed her without her on his side. Alright Naruto, Maki said when he finally composed himself, the reason I called you here is that we have to go and get Sakura for your daily training with each other. It would have been easier if Sakura-chan is here. Naruto complained. Look Naruto. I know you wanted to be in the same team with her, even me. I already tried to convince the Hokage, but he cannot break the rules. The two of you did well in your exams, so you cannot be in the same team or else, two teams will be imbalanced. Now, come on. Maki then started walking away and Naruto followed. Naruto has his hands on the back of his head humming a tune, while Maki just paid attention on where he is going. Naruto just has to follow the man next to him, so he didn't really look where he is going. A few of the villagers looked at the two with disgust, but they could not do anything with a ninja guarding the blonde. They finally arrived at a barbecue restaurant. Maki leaned on the wall next to the entrance, while Naruto has a confused look. He scratched his head and looked at the restaurants inside. It is beautiful and the restaurant is full with customers. Maki-sensei, what are we doing here? He asks. We are waiting for my niece. He simply stated without looking at Naruto. He seems to be lost in thought. What would she be doing here? Is she on a date? Naruto asks further, a hint of jealousy in his voice. Don't worry about that. She is here with her team, and if she has a date, she has to get permission from me on the date. The moment Maki finishes his sentence, 4 people walked out of the restaurant, which were the members of Team 10. All of them turned to face the 2 members of Team 7. Naruto and Sakura looked at each other, lost in their own world in the eye contact. Hi, Maki. Asuma said in surprise, what are you doing here? Asuma. I am here for training and to borrow one of your students. He answered, pointing at Sakura. Ah yes. She is your student as is mine, so that is not a problem. He answered, looking at Sakura. Hoi, Naruto, how are you? A voice said and Naruto turned to face Shikamaru. Hi Shikamaru. I am great. How is your sensei? Shikamaru grunted, looking at him with his eyes, but not turning his face. He placed his hand on the back of his neck. I guess he's okay, but his smoking is troublesome for me. It hurts our eyes and he seems to keep getting new cigarettes the moment he finishes one. Naruto laughed and turned to face the chubby kid with him. He has brown hair and wears some sort of green jacket and brown pants. He is from the Akamichi clan and he can be a good friend. All you have to do is not call him fat and everything will be okay. Hi Chaoji. Naruto said, waving at him. Chaoji was patting his stomach, clearly satisfied with whatever he ate. What do you think of your new sensei? Chaoji's eyes flashed and gives a thumbs up, he is the best. He just treated us to a full meal of barbecue and I don't think there can be a better sensei than him. Naruto laughed nervously. This Asuma guy must be crying his eyes out right now. The last time him, Kiba, Shikamaru and Choji ate, they had to pay mostly for Choji's meal, which is actually 3 times when Naruto ate at Ichiraku Ramen. Naruto-kun, Sakura said, catching Naruto's attention, what brings you here anyway? Naruto pointed at Maki who is still talking with Asuma, your uncle said that we are going to train today. So, I guess we came here to get you. Sakura then walked next to Naruto and waited until the two jounins finished their conversation. Choji took out a pack of potato chips and started shoving in chips. He offered it to Shikamaru to see if he wants, but he refused and then offered it to Naruto and Sakura. They too refused and Sakura almost puked from the food. She is already full from the barbecue. Alright, I'll see you soon Asuma. Maki said, ending the conversation. Asuma waved as he takes his 2 male students with him. Maki watched until they disappeared from sight and then put his attention to his 2 students of 2 years. Alright, meet me at training ground number 5. Get there quickly. Maki then disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto and Sakura then started walking to their destination. It took them 10 minutes to reach the training grounds. So, Sakura-chan, what do you think of your new sensei? Naruto asks, hoping to start a conversation. He is okay I guess. I just don't like him smoking. It is bad for health and it hurts my eyes. But he seems to be a strong ninja. She answered. I wonder if Maki-sensei or Asuma is stronger. Naruto said as they opened the gate of training ground number 5. Sakura shrugged, we will never know unless we can make them fight each other. Naruto stopped walking and faced Sakura, that's not a bad idea. Sakura hit Naruto's head lightly, Baka, don't you dare try anything like that. Naruto apologized and the two made their way to the open field. They found Maki waiting under a tree and they could see from his expression that he has been waiting for them. The two approached the jounin and he emerged from the shadows of the trees. What the hell took you two so long? He asks, clearly displeased. Apologies but we just had to spend time with each other since we aren't going to have much time as we have now since we are on different teams. Naruto gave his excuse, not noticing the slight blush from Sakura upon hearing spending time together. Maki still looked displeased, fine, but as your punishment, I want you to do 100 push-ups, sit-ups and run around the training ground 10 times. Now get to it. The two obeyed immediately and started to do the task at hand. Naruto dropped down to his stomach and started doing his push-ups, while Sakura is on her back doing her sit-ups. The two of them took about 10 minutes to complete the 2 tasks together and started running around the training grounds together. It's no wonder Maki chose this training area. The field is 3 times larger than normal, and so, it took them almost 18 minutes to finish their warm-ups. Sakura dropped down on her butt when she reached her uncle, panting while Naruto acted like normal, although he is breathing heavily for oxygen. Maki smirked, alright, today you will not be training. I want the two of you to fight each other. Your first spar against each other. Maki said. Spar against each other? Sakura repeated, looking up at Maki, why? Don't ask questions Sakura. You will be having your tests with Asuma and the two of us give the same tests. So, trust me that this spar will help you for tomorrow. Maki stated and walked to the tree earlier. Naruto looked at Sakura and she looked at him, blue eyes meet green eyes. Naruto offered his hand and Sakura gladly accepted and he pulled her up. He used too much force and got Sakura off guard, so they were now in some sort of a hug. Naruto and Sakura's faces are just a few inches away, their noses almost touching. Naruto and Sakura blushed so hard, their faces almost looked like a tomato. Sorry, Sakura-chan. Naruto muttered his apology and let her go. Sakura merely nodded. She missed the body heat even if it was just for a second. The two walked away from each other until they are quite a distance from each other. They faced each other and both are in an attacking stance. Meanwhile, Maki enjoyed the show earlier. He had to stop his laugh or they would get mad at him. They actually hugged and almost kissed each other. He pulled that funny incident away and noticed that they are waiting for his order. Start. He ordered. Sakura threw 3 shurikens at Naruto who easily avoided while running forward. Naruto drew out a kunai and gripped it hard, preparing for hand-to-hand combat. Sakura did not move and just waited for him to attack, which made Naruto suspicious on what she might be planning. Naruto finally reached her and kicked her in the stomach, only to find that Sakura's body dispersed into pink flower petals. Naruto jumped back in shock and realized it. Ninjutsu? He thought, when did she cast it? I didn't see her do any hand seals. If you are thinking when I cast this, it was the moment you avoided those kunai. They were used to distract you while I cast the Jinjutsu, and I will torture you until you surrender, Naruto-kun. A voice said. Naruto's surrounding then turned all pink with the petals all flying around him, clouding his vision. The petals then turned into different ninja tools, all slowly piercing his skin. The weapons are not attacking his vital organs, just small scratches. Naruto yelled in pain as the shurikens continue scratching him. Then, the ground below him started to shake madly and a giant Sakura tree emerged from the ground. The roots grabbed Naruto's feet, causing him to be immobile. Naruto is already breathing heavily when he remembered Iruka telling him how to escape a Jinjutsu. "Hi!" He yelled and the Jinjutsu dispelled and he found himself back in the training ground. He dropped to his knees in exhaustion. He realized that the wounds on his body were also part of the Jinjutsu and he found Sakura standing right in front of him. "That is just a C-rank Jinjutsu, Naruto-kun. I suggest you surrender or I will put your mind to another torture," Sakura said, giving Naruto an evil grin. Naruto made a seal and yelled, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." 5 clones of Naruto appeared and all of them ran straight to Sakura. All of the Narutos surrounded Sakura and then threw a kunai at Sakura. Sakura grinned on Naruto's stupidity and jumped up high into the ground. Just as she predicted, the clones dispelled themselves by being attacked by their own weapons. Sakura smirked when she is suddenly shadowed by something above. She looked up to find Naruto there. Banditi, Sakura thought but never finished that thought as Naruto lightly kicked her on her left shoulder. She winced in pain as she started to fall to the ground only to feel Naruto grab a hold of her and placed a kunai on her neck. He gave her his foxy grin and despite the hurt on her shoulder, she could not help but feel her heart melt from looking at his grin. They heard someone clapping and looked at Maki clapping as he made his way towards them. "Well done." Naruto put Sakura down and she had to use Naruto to balance herself. She is still wobbly, but she can at least stand. Maki placed each of his hands on the 2 of their shoulders. "The both of you did well, but Naruto," he said, facing him, "you could actually lose when Sakura caught you in her Jinjutsu. Of course, she gave you a chance by putting you in a weak Jinjutsu. If she used one of her Jinjutsus that even when you undo IT Kai, it will still not be able to release it. So Naruto, you have to be more careful." Naruto nodded. Maki smiled and faced the 2 of them. "Now, how about I treat you to some ramen?" His answer is responded by a cheering Naruto while Sakura watched him. In the Haruno household at dinner time, Maki and Sakura are eating hastily while Sayuki watched them in surprise on how hungry they are. They are eating like pigs. Sakura is understandable since Maki told her that she had training earlier today, but she wondered what made Maki so hungry. "So Sakura," Sayuki said, slicing a piece of fish for herself, "who are your teammates?" Sakura swallowed her food first before answering, "Akimichi Chouji and Nara Shikamaru mom." Her mother smiled, "A boy from the Nara clan. That is good. They are known for being the smart kind. Perhaps it would be good to have an interest in him." Sakura nearly choked on her food and Maki had to pat her back. Maki had to grit his teeth in anger upon mentioning of trying to match a Nara together with her. He already had a bad experience with a Nara and he did not want history to repeat itself. "Mom, we are just friends. I don't like him that way," Sakura said to her mother. "Fine," she sighed, "at least the demon child is not with you. How many times have I told you not to call Naruto that?" Maki yelled, slamming his fist on the table, luckily not breaking it. Sakura eating from fear of her uncle. She has never seen him this angry and why did her mother call Naruto a demon? Maki is now breathing hard and looking at Sayuki with anger. Sayuki calmly shrugged. "He is, isn't he?" Maki glared at her angrily and is about to answer when Sakura spoke, "What is wrong with Naruto? He seems nice to me." "Sakura," her mother said angrily, "didn't I tell you not to be friends with him? But he seems to be okay to me." "Sakura. I don't want you to be with that demon," she practically yelled. "Sakura, why don't you go to bed?" Maki suggested, never taking his eyes off of Sayuki. Sakura gladly agreed, taking her plate and cup to the kitchen and after that, walking up the stairs. Maki heard Sakura's bedroom door close and then he spoke calmly. "I already told you that she and Naruto are friends. What is so hard to accept about that?" he asked, controlling his anger. "You know damn well why. He contains that beast inside of him. He might kill her just like he killed your brother," she hissed. "Don't you dare bring up Hinaki on this subject. Naruto is the container of the Kyuubi and not the Kyuubi itself. Why can't you get that into your thick skull?" He spat. "I don't want to talk to you about this. There is no point. You probably never loved your brother and that is why you do not hate the demon child," she replied and made her way to the kitchen to clear up dinner. Maki sighed heavily and made his way to his room, preparing for his sleep. He is going to have a headache soon if he doesn't sleep soon, so he may as well sleep before it comes. Naruto is also preparing for his sleep. He just finished his dinner which was a cup of instant ramen. The evening meal he had at Ichiraku Ramen with Sakura and Maki earlier really filled his stomach, so he wasn't that hungry. He brushed his teeth and once done, walked into his room and switched off the light in his bedroom. He walked to his window and looked at the Hokage's monument. The 4 Hokage's face are sculptured there and he can just see it now in the future his face on that mountain. "Believe it," he said to himself. He then dropped into his bed and dragged the blanket up to his neck. He closed his eyes and can't wait for his test for tomorrow. According to Maki, the spar he had earlier today is all he needed and he wondered why. He tried to ask Maki what their tests are, but his resolve is strong. Naruto closed his eyes and hoped that he will be dreaming of Sakura. And if he did, he hoped that Sakura is dreaming about him. The sound of the villagers of Konoha walking past the streets woke up one of the ninjas in Konoha. Although at this time, most of the ninjas are awake, this particular pink-haired ninja slept in because he has no mission and the only thing he has to do is test a bunch of new ninjas at 9 in the morning. However, the villagers are making too much noise and that woke Maki up. Maki groaned loudly as he raised himself and sat on his bed, rubbing his eyes. He looks at his alarm clock next to his and it shows that it is 7:45 in the morning. Maki yawned loudly and decides to at least freshen himself up before he goes to the training ground for his team. He took out a towel and hangs it on his shoulder. He walks to the bathroom only to find it locked. He knocked on the door and asks, "Are you done yet?" "Almost, Uncle Maki." A female voice responds. Maki sighed and leaned on the wall, covering his mouth as he yawns the second time in just a minute. He is wearing a white tank top and blue boxers. He heard a click sound and the door of the bathroom opens, Sakura drying her hair fully dressed. "It's all yours now," Sakura says as he passes him. She had better not use up all of the hot water. Maki thought. He hangs the towel on a towel rack. He switches on the shower and warm water flowed down on him, washing his body. He sighs happily on the heat. He took about 6 minutes to finish his shower and dries himself off. Then, he walks to the basin and starts to brush his teeth, making sure his teeth stay white. When you stay with 2 women throughout the years, you soon become a clean freak like them. Once he is done doing everything he needs to do, he wraps his towel around his waist and walks back to his room. The clock shows that it is already 8:10 in the morning. He locks the door and drops his towel, walking around the room naked while he picks out his attire. He finally decided to wear the same ninja attire he wears and then to finish it off, a jounin vest to cover his upper body. He opens one of his drawers and takes out his back pouch. He still has 5 of his custom kunais and sees no reason to add any extra amount since he has no mission and he doubts he will use it for the test today. Once he is finished getting ready, he makes his way downstairs to eat. He chuckled as he remembers that he told his students yesterday not to eat anything for breakfast. It is just part of the test to make them hungry which makes them have less energy. This is to help the ninjas to train as you never know when you have to fight the enemy even when you have no energy. He enters the kitchen only to find 1 plate of bacon and eggs. He forgot. Sakura must have been told by Asuma the same thing. That she cannot eat breakfast. He decided to quickly eat before she finds him eating and might question him about this. He took a sit and started shoving food into his mouth and quickly swallowing them. He finished eating in just a minute, drinking his cup of milk to help the food down his throat. He took the plate and cup to the kitchen sink and placed it there for Sayuki to clean it later. He looks at the clock in the kitchen and it says it is 8:20 in the morning. I still have plenty of time. He thought. Maki decides to watch the morning news and walks to the living room. He found Sakura there, sitting on the couch and all of her ninja tools on the ground, counting them. She counts her weapon and then puts it into her back pouch. She looks up when Maki enters the living room. He just smiled at her and then took a sit on a chair and switched on the TV. "Hi, Uncle Maki," Sakura said, "are you okay with Mum now?" Without taking his eyes off the TV, he answers, "Yeah. We may have an argument yesterday, but we are okay the next day. Let's just say that these arguments have been happening even before you are born, so we are already used to it that these arguments have not much effect on our relationship." "That's really weird," Sakura states, "but that's okay, I guess. I wonder why Mum hates Naruto so much." Maki's breathing stopped. He hoped that Sakura does not ask anymore as the more she asks, the more difficult his situation will be. "I don't know, Sakura. Perhaps one day she will tell us. For now, just let her be and let her find out on her own that Naruto is a good kid." "Yeah," she muttered. After Sakura finished getting ready with all her ninja tools, she walked to the kitchen to check the time. It shows that it is already 8:40 and she had better leave now before she gives a bad impression on her sensei, thinking that she is not punctual. She grabbed her back pouch in the living room and starts to make her way to the training ground. "Are you leaving now, Sakura?" Maki asks from the living room. "Yeah." She replied loudly as she wore her ninja sandal, "I don't want to make my new teammates and Asuma sensei to wait for me." Maki chuckled when he heard Sakura call Asuma sensei. He is not that close to Asuma, but they are still friends. They sometimes go to the bar to relieve themselves and they have been together on missions. The wind element is the best element for close-range combat. Maki hears the front door of the house open and close. He sighs and switches off the TV, deciding that it is also time for him to make his way to training ground number 7. Team 6 is the most unlucky team since they are no doubt going to be eliminated and not going to have a future in a ninja career. He sometimes thinks that Kakashi is too harsh on the kids, but his test actually is a good way to send a message to them. If they pass. Making sure that he has all his ninja tools, he decides to make his way to the training ground. He checked the time and it is already 8:50 in the morning. I guess I will be a little late, but that's not a problem. If they complain, I will make sure they regret it. Maki thought. Sayuki, I have to go now. He yells from the kitchen to make sure Sayuki hears him from the backyard. Alright. Have a good day. She yells back. Maki sometimes wonders how they can just forget the incident yesterday. He ties his headband on his forehead and walks out of the house, allowing the sunlight to shine on him. He then starts to make his way to the training ground, taking his own sweet time as he hums a tune. At training ground number 7, a lone boy is waiting there alone. He arrived here a little early from the appointed time and did his warm-ups to burn some time. He arrived here 20 minutes before 9, so he did some push-ups and ran around the field about 2 times. When he realized it is finally 9, he waited under a tree to hide from the heat. Sasuke's stomach is now grumbling from not eating breakfast. I wonder why he told us not to eat breakfast. Sasuke thought. Then, he saw another figure entering the training ground and he recognized the blonde boy. He is wearing a dark brown shirt today with black shorts like him, only Sasuke's shorts are white. Naruto just waved at Sasuke and Sasuke merely nodded. The blonde took a seat next to Sasuke, placing his backpack on the ground. Sasuke looks at the bag and points at it. What's with the backpack? He asks. Wow, you actually can talk. Naruto says, faking astonishment. Sasuke gave Naruto a death glare. Will you just answer my question? Relax, will you? I'm just joking. Inside the backpack are a couple of my ninja weapons I brought. The normal back pouch provided by the shops was not enough. Sasuke looked at the blonde. You brought that much weapons? Well, when you are fighting a jounin, you are going to need all the weapons you need. Before Sasuke could answer, they heard a voice calling them. The 2 males recognized the high-pitched voice. They turned and they were right. Ino has arrived and is waving frantically at them. Or to put it right, waving at Sasuke. Sasuke groaned and went back to brooding. Good morning, Sasuke-kun. Ino said, smiling at him. That is all that came out of his mouth. And a good morning to you, Naruto. She says but not as enthusiastic when she said it to Sasuke. Morning, Ino. Naruto replies and takes a look at Ino. She is not wearing her headband and realizes that the headband is tied on her waist. She is wearing a dark purple top and purple skirt and has the same sort of bandages like the woman Kurenai. What are you looking at? Ino asks and Naruto continues to look at her from head to toe. Nothing, Ino. I am just checking you out. Naruto replies and had no idea what he actually said. You pervert. She yells and almost hits him in the head when a puff of smoke appeared in front of the tree. Maki appears in front of them with his hands in his pocket, using the same expression as yesterday. Bored. Alright, I apologize for being late, but let's just get straight to the test. Maki says, looking at all 3 of them. Naruto and Sasuke both got up and prepared themselves. Ino gulped and stood between the 2 males, feeling protected. Maki scratches his head and clears his throat. Alright, this is what you need to do to pass the test. Before I explain how to pass, I will explain to you why you are all put into 3-man teams. Oh, and before I forget, you only have about an hour and a half to land a hit on me. If you do not hit me by the appointed time, you fail. All 3 of the kids nodded and Maki continued, the reason for that is simple, teamwork. When you perform missions, ninjas work best when they are in a team. Of course, the skills of an individual are also an important factor, but even the strongest ninja cannot beat a team with good teamwork. So, this test will prove that factor. What do you mean? Ino asks. Maki sighs, this is the test. I want the 3 of you, no matter how you do it, to land a blow on me. You can use all your ninja weapons, come at me as if you have to kill me. All you have to do is hit me once, even if it's a small scratch from a shuriken or a kunai. This is to show that no matter how skillful I am, I will still receive a hit from you guys. Just 1 hit? Naruto asks, cracking his knuckles. Maki nodded and Naruto instantly runs up to Maki with his right hand charged for a punch. Sasuke smirks, he won't hit him, he is too slow, and he is already telling the jounin that he is going to use his right hand to punch him. However, to everyone's surprise, Naruto successfully punches Maki's left cheek. Maki starts to fall from the blow. Naruto has a smile on his face, while Sasuke and Ino just look at the falling jounin, shocked. Unfortunately, the falling jounin disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving a confused Naruto. Naruto suddenly felt strong arms grab his neck and felt a cold metal poking his neck. He could turn his face to look at his assailant, but he could see dark pink hair on his shoulder. Naruto, I never said start. Maki simply says. When did he create a shadow clone? Sasuke thought. This is going to be hard. Ino thought worriedly. Oh, and Sasuke, Maki said, turning to face Sasuke, I am your sensei now. Don't just call me that Jounin. It's pretty weird. Naruto did not do anything. He just gritted his teeth in anger on Maki's arrogance. Maki could feel Naruto's killer intent and decides to start the match. Begin. He barks and kicks Naruto's back, causing Naruto to almost trip and fall. Naruto got his balance and turns back to Maki, who has a bored expression on his face. All three young ninjas grabbed a kunai and charges at Maki. Sasuke is the first to reach the pink-haired Jounin and uses his arm that is wielding the kunai to try and slice Maki in half, but Maki grabs his wrist and throws him to the incoming girl. Ino's reflexes are too slow and felt Sasuke crashing on her. Ino realizes that Sasuke is on her and blushes hard. Sasuke-kun. She stutters. Sasuke shakes his head, trying to clear his head, and pushes himself off of Ino. Naruto saw the whole thing and realizes that close combat will result in the same thing like Sasuke. He tosses his kunai, aiming Maki's head, but Maki merely moves his neck to avoid it. Naruto jumps toward his bag, opens it and tosses several kunai and shurikens. Maki narrows his eyes, turning serious. He grabs a normal kunai and starts blocking and avoiding the weapons that were aimed at him. After the attack stops, he sees several Narutos coming towards him, each wielding 3 shurikens. Naruto's clones all tosses the shurikens at the same time, and Maki easily avoids them, throwing his own shurikens at the clones, dispelling them. As he is still in the air, he sees the real Naruto smirking. He gives a confused look and feels someone above him in the air. He finds Sasuke high above him, with his right leg charged for a blow. Sasuke uses all his might for his right leg to hit Maki, but Maki easily blocks it and landed on his feet. However, the attack is not over and jumps up once again to avoid several kunais that were coming at him. Ino curses at Maki for avoiding her attacks. When Maki landed on the ground once more, he jumps back twice to clear some distance between him and the 3 young ninjas. Damn, that was a close call. He thought, catching his breath. Ino jumps back to her comrades and stands next to Sasuke, who is standing between Naruto and Ino. So, now what? Ino asks without taking her eyes off the pink-haired ninja. I don't know. It seems we need to really catch him off guard to land a blow on him. Sasuke answers, panting lightly. I've got a plan. Naruto says, turning to face his 2 comrades. He then starts whispering to the 2, and Maki could see from here that Sasuke and Ino are nodding every few seconds. Of course, if this is a real fight he wouldn't give them a chance, but they are inexperienced so he will give them the chance. Alright, so you guys got it? Naruto asks to confirm the plan. Sasuke and Ino nod their head, and the 3 of them faces the pink-haired Jounin, who is waiting for them patiently. Sasuke and Ino took out a kunai and held it tight, preparing for a close-range combat rather than tossing it. Are you guys done discussing? Maki asks loudly. His question is answered by Sasuke and Ino charging towards him. He narrows his eyes when he realizes that Naruto is running in a different direction. Is he trying to get me from my blind spot? He thought to himself. He had to then pay attention to the 2 young ninjas when they attacked him with their kunai. Ino jumped forwards and tried to attack his neck, but Maki ducks. Sasuke expected this and tosses his kunai. Maki blocks it with his kunai. With Ino still in the air, he kicks Ino light on the gut, throwing her toward Sasuke. Sasuke knew that Maki tries to do the same thing just like he did earlier. Sasuke grabs Ino and places her on her feet. Good, now his attention is now on us and not on Naruto. Sasuke thought happily. Sasuke then started doing seals and when he completes it, starts to inhale air. Heitan. Gakakyu no Jutsu. Maki is impressed that the young Uchiha can use a high-level fire technique. Maki jumped up into the air and found Sasuke and Ino in the air with him. Sasuke behind him and Ino in front of him. Ino swings her leg, trying to kick the side of his neck, but Maki grabbed it and throws her to the ground. Sasuke grinned as the plan is going smoothly. But the blonde girl now safely on the ground and Maki, falling to the ground but still in the air, Sasuke starts to do seals again. Heitan. Housenkan no Jutsu. Maki glances back at Sasuke and sees about 6 fireballs aimed at him. He speeds up his fall and when he reaches the ground, starts avoiding the fireballs. It is quite easy avoiding the fireballs when he forgot that Ino is on the ground with him. He saw a kunai land in front of him with an exploding tag. Shit. He cursed loudly and jumped back on time as the tag explodes, dust scattering all over the air. What are they planning? Ino purposely aimed the kunai on the ground to make me avoid it. Maki thought as he realizes that he jumped back to a river. He starts to gather chakra on his feet to avoid being wet. He lands softly on the water, looking back at the 2 young ninjas pointing at him. Hi, he's not supposed to do that. Ino complains. Damn it, Naruto, just do it now. Sasuke yells. Maki cocks his head to the left in confusion until he felt about 5 chakras from below him. He looks down and sees 5 Narutos swimming up and he quickly jumped back. At the nick of time, all 5 of the Narutos emerge from the water, cursing something about being too slow or not fair. Maki landed on the opposite side of the river with all three of his students on the side, Naruto dripping wet. Maki had to admit that was a close call. "So, what did you guys really plan?" he asks, his curiosity getting the best of him. "You," Naruto points at Maki, "are supposed to fall into the water. I was down there ready to ambush you and land a blow on you." "Yes, sensei," Ino said, "how come you can stand on water? That's not fair." Maki smirks, "I admit that plan should actually work. Even when I was standing on water just now, I did not expect Naruto to be waiting in the water for me. However, standing on water is basic knowledge for a ninja when they reach Chunin level. I will teach you when you guys are genins and under me." Naruto clenched his fists in anger while Sasuke grunted in frustration. Ino is panting now. Her stamina is not as high as the boys and she grows tired quickly. Naruto turns to face Sasuke, "So, now what do we do?" Sasuke shrugged, "I can't think of a plan right now. I am too pissed off. A ninja must always stay calm." Ino pointed out. "You're not helping Ino." Sasuke snapped at her. Ino gulped and backed down, not wanting to be on Sasuke's bad side. Naruto sighs and faces Maki once more, who is walking towards them. Naruto can't believe that he is now crossing the river by walking on water. He makes it so easy as if he is walking on the ground. "Now?" Naruto said a little too loudly. That caught Maki by surprise and he stopped walking and moved in a defensive stance. He is still on the water when suddenly, the river below him started exploding. "Exploding tags," he thought. As he jumped into the air, he looked at Naruto. "So, you did not just wait for me, you planted explosives too," he thought, impressed. As he is still in the air, Sasuke starts on the attack. He forms his seals. Haten. Kakakyu no Jutsu. Maki cursed as the great fireball is aimed directly at him and he can't avoid it. He takes out a small scroll and takes it out, opening it. The great fireball is then sucked into the scroll. Maki sighs in relief when he is suddenly grabbed by three Narutos. He looked at all three smiling Narutos as they brought him to the ground. Maki can actually break free from the grip, but he is interested in what they are trying to do and is sure he can avoid it. The three Narutos brought him in front of Ino, who formed the clan seal. Maki's eyes widened when he realized what they are trying to do. Mind transfer technique. Maki's body suddenly went stiff and lost control of his body. Ino's body also suddenly dropped, but Sasuke grabbed her, holding her. Ino now controls Maki's body. The three clones of Naruto then dispelled themselves to allow Ino to do the final touches. She controlled Maki's hands to bring it up to his face and gives himself a slap on the face. She then dispelled the technique. Ino shook her head a few times as she transferred back to her own body. Sasuke smiles at her and lets go of the blushing blonde, looking at their sensei. Naruto approached the shocked Jounin. "So, do we pass?" he asks, giving his foxy grin. Maki looks down at the blonde boy and then at the Uchiha and the Yamanaka girl. He grabs the bridge of his nose and says, "I'm impressed. You guys actually planned to fake an argument between yourselves when your first plan failed to catch me off guard. But tell me, what if I really did drop into the water? Then I try and hit you?" Naruto answers. "And if I escape? Me and Sasuke-kun will be ready to engage you." Ino answered for Naruto. Maki nodded and then puts his hands on Naruto's shoulder. "Well, I guess all I can say is that tomorrow, Team 7 will begin as a team." Naruto punches the air. "Yeah. We did it." Sasuke, for the first time, gave a smile and walked under a tree to relax. Ino breathes out a sigh of relief and follows the Uchiha. Maki looks at all three of his students. They indeed caught him by surprise. He knew that these three holds great promise and perhaps can be one of the best team to be produced in Konoha's history.